Chapter 1531. Regardless of the experts who were fighting or the spectators, all of them were greatly shocked. Qin Wenyan, who was surrounded, relied on his own strength to kill 3 immortal emperors. Incomparably powerful combat prowess, terrifying cultivation talent, and an undying body. He was simply perfect. Such a supreme genius like Qin Wenyan, if he broke through to the immortal emperor realm, it would be even more difficult to kill him. And if he broke through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, at that time, who in the vast immortal realms would be able to stop him? This caused everyone to shiver. Luckily, they came here today to kill him. If not, if he grew stronger, he would become a true enemy. This was especially so in this chaotic era. If he rose up, it was unknown how many major powers that had grudges against him would be annihilated. The death of the 3 immortal emperors caused many experts to sigh in admiration. Their decision this time around wasn't wrong. Killing Qin Wenyan before he grew stronger was undoubtedly the correct decision. Those spectators couldn't help but to sigh. It was truly a pity for such a character to die here. However, for those who were hostile towards Qin Wenyan, all of them hoped that he would die here. In this era, everyone hoped that they could become a supreme existence, standing at the peak of the immortal realms. Qin Wenyan caused their hearts to tremble. Luckily, he was still going to die in the end, completely annihilated. At this moment, in the airspace above Qin Wenyan, that mid-stage immortal emperor shattered Qin Wenyan's devil palm imprint. Qin Wenyan inclined his head and stared at him, the remnant energy in his astral souls churned wildly. His eyes were terrifying as he stared up at the sky. Even at the final moment, facing against a mid-stage immortal emperor, he still wanted to fight. Swish, Chongqing the Great's vines broke through the encirclement and shot over, wanting to destroy everything. However, that mid-stage immortal emperor wasn't an ordinary character either. Astral light shone as boundless law energy gushed forth, lacerating the vines. He stared at Qin Wenyan below and pointed out with a finger. In an instant, a constellation manifested, its destructive might penetrated through everything, blasting towards Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan roared, and his rule power soared into the sky, turning into a true dragon and a vermilion bird. The mid-stage immortal emperor in the air stomped down, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Boundless might penetrated through everything, tearing apart the true dragon and killing the vermilion bird. The violent killing might penetrated through everything, gushing into Qin Wenyan's body. Terrifying sizzling sounds rang out as Qin Wenyan's incomplete body shattered once more. Qin Wenyan's energy was completely exhausted. He only felt a wave of helplessness. More immortal emperors were rushing over. Everyone understood that no matter how high Qin Wenyan's talent was, there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. More than 10 supreme powers wanted him dead. How could he survive? Qin Wenyan himself also knew that he wouldn't be able to survive. He turned and stared at Qing and Qingqing, who were enveloped by the eternal evergreen tree. A radiant smile could be seen in his eyes as he stared at Qing and Qingqing. Qing also smiled at Qin Wenyan. At this moment, she didn't cry. She was the same as Qin Wenyan, smiling radiantly, beautiful to the extreme. It was like she wanted to imprint her most beautiful face into Qin Wenyan's mind. Only to see Qin Wenyan opening his arms, like he wanted to hug her. It was also like he knew that if he died, he would give up everything. The immortal realms were filled with beauties. The rivers and mountains were like a painting, cultivating for several hundred years, exuding magnificence through the generations. Defeating immortal kings, fighting against the heavens, he would rather betray the world than betray her. Destructive energy gushed forth, destroying everything. Qin Wenyan's body shattered. At this moment, even if it was a broken body, there was nothing left. He was completely destroyed. Staring at the vanishing silhouette, the battle in this entire space seemed to come to an abrupt halt. It was so sudden. The battles between so many immortal emperors suddenly came to a halt just like that. In this battle, there were immortal emperors who died, immortal emperors who were heavily injured, and immortal emperors who fled. Such a violent battle, at the instant of Qin Wenyan's death, everything strangely came to a halt. The experts in the air all slowly returned, staring at the vanished silhouette of Qin Wenyin. Did he die? Naturally, a mid-stage immortal king radiated with astral light, unleashing a destructive might that pierced through his opponent's body. How could he not die? No matter how strong his body was, he would still be reduced to ashes. Some had cold eyes, some heaved a sigh of relief, some let out howls of grief and anger, and there were also some who sighed silently. An unrivaled king in the city of ancient emperors, killing so many geniuses from the various major powers in the immortal realms until they couldn't even retaliate. A supreme character who consecutively killed 3 immortal emperors despite being surrounded by so many immortal emperors, had died just like that? From now onwards, there would no longer be a Qin Wendian in the immortal realms. Is he finally dead? Dongsheng Heaven Emperor's countenance was cold to the extreme, but the flames of hatred in his heart had yet to vanish. He still wanted to destroy the Evergreen Kingdom and the immortal Qianbian Gate. However, he also understood that with Qin Wentian's death, there was no way for this battle to continue. So many major powers were embroiled in this storm. After killing Qin Wenyin, if these people continued to act, even if they won in the end, their revenge would be uncontrollable. Zidi also stopped his battle. He stared downwards as his eyes gleamed with violet light. No one knew what he was thinking about. Arg! Bai Wuya let out a roar of rage. Fresh blood actually seeped out from his palms. Revenge, he definitely had to take revenge. His gaze swept through the crowd, memorizing the names of those who participated in the battle. For this hatred, he had to take revenge no matter the cost. The Emperor Qianbian, Bai Wuya, and the other 2 immortal emperors from the Heavenly Talisman realm all sighed in their hearts. Bai Wuya had no expression on his face, but his deep eyes flickered with an intense killing intent. Qin Wenyin was personally guided into the Heavenly Talisman realm by him. Ever since Eastern Sage accepted disciples, he was already acquainted with Qin Wenyin, who was still cultivating in his particle world. One could say that he had watched Qin Wenyin grow up. Although Qin Wenyin referred to him as senior brother and they were fellow apprentices, in truth, the relationship between the 2 of them was more like that of an elder and a junior. Bai Wuya felt this way in his heart, and so did Qin Wenyin. But now, Qin Wenyin had died. He, Bai Wuya, was the one who guided him into the Heavenly Talisman realm, yet he didn't have the ability to protect him. He inclined his head and stared at the air. Back then, was his decision to guide Qin Wenyin into the Heavenly Talisman realm right or wrong? He doubted himself. The Changqing the Great had no expression on his face. His eyes swept over everyone here as he remembered everything. This wasn't merely the death of Qin Wenyin, it was also the greatest humiliation he, the Changqing the Great, had ever suffered in his life. This was a humiliation to the Evergreen Kingdom. However, he didn't despair too much. He believed that he would return in the future. The Southern Phoenix matriarch sighed silently. She only met Qin Wenyin a few times, but this didn't affect her admiration for him. She still wanted to see him rise up. What a pity! Many experts from the Namhuang clan sighed silently. However, they couldn't change anything. It was already very rare for them to be willing to take such a risk to participate in the war. The ancient Buddha of the Wenshin temple pressed his palms together and chanted. Both his eyes were closed, and his countenance was solemn. The karma of today will be reaped in the future. Everyone take care. As the sound of the Buddha voice faded, a bright light flashed as his body vanished from sight. The people of the Ascart temple all left one after another, leaving behind a Buddha voice that seemed to contain a deeper meaning within. However, since it was a Buddha language, how could it be so easy to comprehend? They didn't understand and didn't want to understand it. The people here were all major characters. Since they did this, they had already thought of the consequences. No matter what the consequences were, they would accept it. Brother, take care. Li Yufeng mumbled. He was merely an immortal king. He wouldn't be able to change anything. Bai Ming Nongyue, Su Qingyao, and even the fox goddess silently sighed. Tears could be seen in Su Qingyao's eyes, causing her immortal emperor parents to glance at her in bewilderment. However, she soon adjusted herself and wiped away the tears in her eyes. But even so, she still felt a sense of sorrow. Such a battle, she would never be able to forget it for the rest of her life. Princess Kitamura stared at the battlefield, staring at Qin Wentian's vanishing silhouette. Her eyes were as deep and cold as ever. At this moment, she couldn't help but think back to the days when she was acquainted with Qin Wentian. She thought of how disrespectful Qin Wentian was towards her, how disrespectful he was towards her. She should have personally killed him. But now that Qin Wentian died, why didn't she feel any joy at all? On the contrary, she felt a sense of sorrow instead. In the quiet space, howling sounds rang out unceasingly. These were none other than Little Rascal's howls. Along with his howls, the tears of purgatory could also be heard. The old heaven-devouring beast directly brought them away forcefully. If not, these two little fellows would really send themselves to death. The gazes of many involuntarily turned to the same direction. That was the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom, where Qin was. For her, Qin Wentian had come here despite knowing that he would die for sure. In that direction, an extremely beautiful maiden was kneeling on the ground, sobbing. Her long hair covered her flawless countenance. This maiden was none other than Mo Qingqing. However, what was completely different from her was that when Qin stared at the direction where Qin Wentian disappeared, she didn't cry. She was smiling instead. Qin Wentian's silhouette seemed to still be there, resounding in her mind. He was smiling at her, and his smile was so beautiful, so handsome. Hence, she also smiled. Her smile was extremely beautiful, so beautiful that even the experts in the surroundings couldn't help but be stunned. As she smiled, Qing's long hair fluttered in the wind. A strand of her hair was as white as snow. After that, the hearts of many suddenly pounded. Qing's fluttering long hair turned into snowflakes, and in the blink of an eye, her entire head of black hair transformed into a snow-white color. Her hair turned white in the blink of an eye. However, her beautiful eyes were still filled with a smile. Even though her hair had turned white, she was still as beautiful as ever. It was a different kind of beauty, a beauty of desolation, so beautiful that it stirred the hearts and souls of people. Changqing the Great's heart pounded violently, feeling pain in his heart. Even for the females who had nothing to do with Qin Wentian, they all felt pain in their hearts. The Grand Priest of the Judiciary Devil Hall sighed. His silhouette flashed as he returned to Bai Qing's side. But at the next instant, his eyes narrowed as his body involuntarily trembled. Bai Qing. His heart pounded violently as he stared fixedly at Bai Qing, only to see that at this moment, Bai Qing's eyes were still staring ahead, staring at Qin Wentian's disappearing silhouette. Her eyes were the color of blood, and tears could be seen flowing out from them. The tears that flowed out were dark red blood, tears the color of blood. Chapter 1532. This battle has ended. Qin Wentian died in battle. Before this, the Southern Phoenix matriarch, Qin Wentian, and the Sanluo Immortal Emperor agreed that after this battle, all grudges would be cleared. However, could they really be cleared? In such an intense battle, the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, Evergreen Qing'e, one of the core characters of this battle, had her hair turn white in an instant. The man she deeply loved had died in battle. Could they really be cleared? Leaving aside her talent, there was still the Changqing the Great and GD behind her. There was also another shocking scene that everyone saw. An immortal king priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall actually shed tears of blood. No one knew what this meant, but at the very least, if this priestess was in control of the Judiciary Devil Hall, she would definitely spare no expense to bring the army of the Judiciary Devil Hall into the immortal realms for revenge. The immortal Qinbian Gate lost their most outstanding disciple. Everyone in the immortal realms knew that ever since Qin Wentian's cultivation base was weak, the immortal Qinbian Gate had always been nurturing him. How could they clear their grudges? Everything was destined to happen. The battle today was merely a fuse. In the future, the immortal realms would no longer be peaceful. In addition, leaving aside the fact that there were immortal emperors who died in battle today, the White Emperor raised the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to flat ground. Other than a few immortal emperors who fled, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom no longer existed. After that, the White Emperor even invaded the Supreme Sword School. Could this grudge be cleared? The experts of the Ying clan, the Jiang clan, the Thunder God Hall and many other forces all had faint, meaningful smiles flashing across their deep eyes. Even if the battle today could not continue, it was already enough. This storm would definitely continue. Perhaps, these forces would be at peace for a few years, but in the end, it was just a matter of time. In addition, right now, they still had to return to the city of ancient emperors to contend for supremacy. When they meet again, things would definitely be extremely interesting. Phoenix Matriarch, if there's a chance, I will definitely capture you. Follow me back to my clan to serve me. The emperor of the Forak race, Jia Yema, spoke to the southern Phoenix Matriarch. After that, his silhouette flashed as he soared through the air. The experts of the Forak race all followed after him. Qin Wenyan was the killer of Jia Huangtian. Now that he was dead, there was no need for them to continue fighting. The southern Phoenix Matriarch coldly glanced at them. After that, the various experts retreated one after another, vanishing without a trace. Even the Skymist Immortal Emperor, Zidi, Eastern Sage, and the others who wanted nothing more than to destroy the Evergreen Kingdom also retreated. The southern Phoenix Matriarch, GD, and the others glanced at Qing as they sighed. The Changqing the Great kept the eternal Audibook tree. Qing'er looked at the experts in the air. Her hair was white as she bowed, thanking them for their kindness. No matter what the outcome was, these people were fighting for Qin Wenyan. After that, Qing turned and walked towards Mo Qingqing, who was kneeling on the ground. Her body didn't move at all, and she was completely silent. Qing'er's hands brushed past Mo Qingqing's hair. Her hands brushed past Mo Qingqing's shoulders as she supported Mo Qingqing up. Mo Qingqing inclined her head. Just a single glance caused the hearts of many who were staring over to tremble. Before this, they had already noticed this beautiful maiden. In fact, many of them knew about the relationship between her and Qin Wenyan. Maybe because Qin Wenyan didn't want his enemies to know, he didn't bid farewell to her before this. Mo Qingqing was originally a supreme beauty. Her eyes were pure, filled with intelligence, capable of toppling empires. But at this moment, her eyes were a pair of deathly gray eyes, devoid of life and spirit qi. It was as though she had already lost her life. At the instant Qin Wenyan was destroyed, her life force was also sucked away, as though she had died once. Qing'er's hair was completely white. She stared at Mo Qingqing's eyes and carried Mo Qingqing up as they walked towards the royal palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire. She promised Qin Wenyan that she would take good care of Mo Qingqing. My condolences. The southern Phoenix Matriarch stared at the backs of the two maidens as she sighed. After that, she glanced at Qin Wenyan, who no longer existed. After that, she brought her people and departed. The experts from the Evergreen Kingdom also departed. A battle that would affect the future of the Immortal Realms, changing the history of the Immortal Realms, came to an end just like that. The imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom was incomparably quiet, filled with an aura of sorrow. Such an emperor-ranked battle naturally circulated around the vast Immortal Realms at the fastest speed. This was especially so for the upper echelons of the Immortal Realms. After that, the news of the emperor-ranked battle spread from the upper echelons to the various main cities of the Immortal Realms. After that, the news spread to the smaller immortal cities, becoming a legend that many people loved to talk about. Qin Wenyan's name rang out for the first time in the Immortal Realms. His name wasn't only famous in the eastern regions. In fact, in the Immortal Realms, there were many extremely powerful immortal emperors whose fame couldn't even be compared to Qin Wenyan. In this heaven-shaking battle, Qin Wenyan faced the encirclement of so many immortal emperors. With a cultivation base at the Immortal King realm, he managed to kill 3 immortal emperors. After his death, the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom's hair instantly turned white. There was even a priestess from the Myriad Devil Islands who had an extremely good relationship with him who shed tears of blood. This became a legendary story discussed by the ordinary people of the Immortal Realms. In addition, after this immortal war, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Supreme Sword School, 2 other hegemonic powers, were also destroyed. Only a few immortal emperors remained alive. Namhuang Clan, Jiue Palace. Back then, Nanfeng Jiue was a peerless beauty. And now, the master of this Jiue palace, Namhuang Yunxi, had a terrifying cultivation base as well. Many people guessed that she might be a character on par with Nanfeng Jiue. At this moment, in an elegant location in the Jiue palace, the sound of a zither could be heard. The melody was very beautiful, but it was so beautiful that it caused people to feel a sense of desolation. Shenga! A voice rang out. After that, an extremely beautiful holy maiden of the Namhuang clan walked over. Dang! The zither melody trembled as the strings broke. Nanfeng Shenga stared at the zither before her and smiled. It's just an ordinary zither after all. The strings can break easily, and the user can die easily. Shenga, ever since the Southern Phoenix matriarch returned, your zither melody has been unstable. How many times has it broken already? This has never happened before. Also, you seem to have tossed your cultivation aside. Could it be that his death is so unforgettable to you? This holy maiden and Nanfeng Shenga were both holy maidens of Namhuang Yunxi. Their relationship was extremely close. Ever since the Southern Phoenix matriarch brought the experts of the Namhuang clan back, Nanfeng Shenga was already in such a state. She naturally could guess the reason. Nanfeng Shenga smiled gently. She was still as beautiful as ever. In terms of looks, she could stand shoulder to shoulder with Namhuang Yunxi, pure and ethereal. Although we cultivate for an extremely long period of time, there are some people that you might only meet once in your lifetime. He is undoubtedly such a person. Nanfeng Shenga calmly spoke. If he was safe, I would silently admire him, watching as he ascended step by step to the peak. I wouldn't disturb him. But sadly, the heavens are jealous of him. Since things have already reached this point, what can we do? I know his magnificence was unrivaled. He displayed his brilliance in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. He was unrivaled in the Immortal King realm in the City of Ancient Emperors. He even killed 3 emperors in a single emperor-ranked battle. However, he has already passed away. We still have to cultivate. Right now, Yunxi is in seclusion, not allowing anyone to disturb her. How can I feel at ease when you are like this? That holy maiden sighed. Everyone in the world said that beauties were the source of calamity. However, if a man was too outstanding, wouldn't he be the source of calamity as well? For example, Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Shenga. They were both holy maidens of the Namhuang clan with extraordinary talent. Regardless of cultivation or beauty, they were all outstanding. However, they were all willing to silently watch a man grow, not disturbing him, silently admiring him. But now that he had died, they were filled with sorrow. I'll be fine. I'll adjust myself, there's no need to worry about me. Nanfeng Shenga smiled. She continued playing the zither. Without the zither strings, the melody she played seemed to be lacking something. The moment we met in the ancient inheritance grounds, I've missed my entire life. The holy maiden sighed as she turned and departed. Several months later, many pieces of news circulated around the immortal realms. For example, the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor and the Paragon Sword Emperor brought several other immortal emperors and joined forces with the Dongxing Heaven Emperor to attack the Evergreen Kingdo Palace. However, the Chongqing the Great didn't go to the City of Ancient Emperors to cultivate. Instead, he stayed in the Evergreen Kingdo Palace and seemed to be prepared for this. He used the eternal evergreen tree to seal the area. The White Emperor, GD, and the Emperor Qinbian appeared, catching their enemies off guard. In this battle, 3 immortal emperors were killed. The Dongxing Heaven Emperor was injured, but he managed to escape. The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor and the Paragon Sword Emperor also killed their way out. The number of people remaining in the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Supreme Sword School was even lesser. Almost all of them were killed. The situation in the eastern regions changed drastically. Those few peak powers that didn't make any movements were still lying in ambush, watching the battles between the peak powers. As for the immortal lord of the Taihua Immortal Dynasty, from then on, he stayed in the city and didn't dare to go to the City of Ancient Emperors to cultivate. He was worried that one day, the other party would directly attack his Taihua Immortal Dynasty. In the myriad devil islands that the immortal realms couldn't touch, A major event also happened on the Devil Mountain. The judiciary priestess, Bai Qing, was promoted to the Grand Priestess when she was still at the Immortal King realm. The Judiciary Hall Lord personally guided her in cultivation. Naturally, no matter how chaotic the external world was, the battles in the City of Ancient Emperors would always be the most intense, because the heroes of the world were all gathered here. After Qin Wenyan died, another batch of people rose up in the Immortal King realm. There were also some who broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm. It was rumored that the strongest character in the Immortal King realm was Hua Taishu. However, after he destroyed the Sun Gold race in the past, only a few people saw him. However, in the northern regions of the Immortal Realms, in the territory of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, there was a forbidden ground in the Dark North Immortal Mountain. There was a stone tablet guarding a dilapidated city. In that area, an extremely sloppy-looking old man was circling around something. His eyes were staring ahead, spinning around unceasingly. However, if one looked at it with their naked eyes, they wouldn't be able to see anything. But if they released their powerful immortal sense, they would be able to faintly sense an extremely minute fluctuation. Even for him, it was extremely blurry. Strange, did he really die? The sloppy-looking old man mumbled to himself. That shouldn't be the case. Why is it so strange? He continued spinning around as though he didn't understand. His immortal sense completely enveloped the area before him, but he still couldn't sense anything. After a long time, he sat down and closed his eyes. In an instant, there seemed to be a formless figure walking out from him, directly moving towards that strand of aura, entering it bit by bit. He had to see what was going on exactly. How could this be hidden from him? Finally, he seemed to have sensed something. Very swiftly, his body trembled as his eyes abruptly opened, gleaming with a terrifying divine light. A single glance from him seemed to be able to pierce through the heavens and earth. What a good fellow, what treasure is this? His interest was piqued. As he peeled away the cocoon bit by bit, he finally peeled away that wisp of soul. Unexpectedly, he saw a tiny person that resembled a star. Chapter 1533. The space within the tiny astral being was as vast as the starry skies, boundless and boundless. At this moment, there was an invisible object floating in the starry sky. It was as if it was a void that could not be seen or touched. After a long time, this formless object seemed to have gained a strand of consciousness. It actually floated up and roamed about, sensing everything here. The formless soul transformed into a blurry silhouette. It was actually Qin Wentian's silhouette. Where is this place? Qin Wentian sensed this space. It seemed to be a boundless starry sky. But very soon he discovered that this place wasn't the 9 heavenly layers. It was a similar place. This is the tiny astral being in my sea of consciousness. A strand of consciousness appeared in Qin Wentian's mind. He was extremely shocked. He didn't die. The undying scripture seemed to have saved his life. Also, the remnant of his soul was actually absorbed into the tiny astral being? What treasure was this thing his father left behind for him exactly? As long as one's soul isn't destroyed, it means that one will never die. Qin Wentian's soul fluctuated. After that, he actually started to cultivate in his soul form. He didn't think about that battle, he didn't think too much about it. Right now, he only had a single thought in his mind. Live on, he had to live on. With the undying scripture, his soul could be revived. At that time, he could reconstruct his body. As long as he didn't die, there would be hope. Even if he lost everything, he could always start over again. Time flowed by bit. This world was incomparably quiet, there was no sound at all. However, given how intense the battle was, even with a heaven-defying art like the undying scripture, wanting to revive his soul wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. Once he started cultivating, he forgot about time. In the blink of an eye, 7 years passed. During these 7 years, many great changes occurred in the immortal realms. The city of ancient emperors also underwent many changes. Experts rose up constantly, and there were also experts who fell. With regards to the battle that happened in the past, many people gradually forgot about it. Qin Wentian's name was also gradually buried in their memories. Maybe only then would people casually mention that battle that shook the immortal realms. However, there were some people who wouldn't forget that battle. For those who participated in that war back then, many of their juniors were killed. In fact, there were even 2 immortal emperors who died. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful that expert was. A peak-stage immortal emperor. Hence, a pursuit occurred in the immortal realms. Several peak-stage immortal emperors chased after Emperor Yu, heavily injuring him and almost killing him. But even so, Emperor Yu still managed to escape. This battle caused a huge commotion in the immortal realms. However, no matter how the outside world changed, the forbidden land of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom was still deserted and barren. The slovenly madman seemed like he would never be bored, but he also seemed to be used to loneliness. He lay on a rock in the ruins and seemed to be asleep, quietly waiting for something. Within the tiny astral being, after 7 years of cultivation, Qin Wentian's soul had already grown stronger and stronger. Just like in the past, he could clearly manifest a soul body and stand in this space. At this moment, he finally stopped his cultivation. His soul body floated in the air, moving towards a particular constellation. In the next instant, a resplendent astral light flashed. Qin Wenyan only felt many memories appearing in his sea of consciousness. However, these weren't memories of his father but were memories of innate techniques. Heavenly Battle Divine Fist. When cultivated to the extreme, one can shatter an entire world, possessing the power to destroy the heavens and earth, shattering space itself. Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness trembled. His soul body floated towards another constellation and in the next instant, brand new memories appeared. Slaughter Divine Art. When cultivated to the grand completion stage, millions of rays of slaughter light would manifest with a lift of one's hand, transforming into a boundless art of slaughter. A single strike could annihilate millions of lives, a world-destroying art. Qin Wentian's soul body trembled, unceasingly flying towards the constellations. Every time he did so, his soul body would tremble. After a long time, he stood in the air in a daze, like a wooden chicken. It was like his soul had left his body. Naturally, the him right now was only his soul. All of them were supreme arts that were comparable to God's hand. Each and every one of them was sufficient to cause the entire immortal realms to go crazy. However, within the tiny astral being, there seemed to be an inexhaustible supply of them. After a long time, his soul body trembled as he mumbled, "Father, what heaven-defying treasure did you leave behind for me exactly?" When he died, his main soul didn't die and was brought into this space. From this, one could very well imagine how heaven-defying this treasure was. Maybe, back then, his father relied on this treasure to not die and was able to restart his cultivation. Qin Wenyan then thought of what his father was forced to hand over by his clan. Could it be that it was this heaven-defying treasure? And now, his father passed this treasure down to him. He recalled the time when he was still a baby. It must have been that time. He once thought that this treasure only contained fragments of his father's memories. He didn't expect that there would be so many divine arts within it. Also, even now, he still hadn't completely unearthed the secrets of this treasure. What exactly was this tiny astral being? It has been so many years. Are Qing and Qingcheng still doing well? Also, I wonder how Bai Qing, Mengchen, Yunxi and the others are doing. And the me now, where am I? Am I still in the Evergreen Kingdom? Qin Wentian mused. After which, his soul floated outwards. In the outside world, the eyelashes of the sloppy old freak twitched. After which, he opened his eyes and sat up. Before him, a faint aura that was so weak that it was almost impossible to sense it started to grow stronger and stronger. After which, a powerful soul aura gushed forth as a formless current of qi flowed about. After which, a soul body appeared, transforming into Qin Wentian's silhouette. The eyes of the slovenly madman gleamed with sharpness as he stared at this scene in bewilderment. He stared at Qin Wentian's soul body and spoke. "Interesting, you actually awakened within that treasure?" Qin Wentian also started. After he woke up, he wasn't in the Evergreen Kingdom. To think that he was actually in the forbidden ground of the Mountain of Laws in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Not only that, he encountered this old freak again. "Old fellow, are you the one who brought me here?" Qin Wendian asked. His tone was very natural. Hee, interesting. The old freak jumped down and circled around Qin Wendian. He was filled with curiosity as he asked, "What's inside that treasure? Where did you get it from?" "Passed down by my ancestors." Qin Wendian rolled his eyes. "Passed down by your ancestors? The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms wouldn't be able to take out such a treasure." The old freak narrowed his eyes, surveying Qin Wendian. His gaze caused Qin Wendian to feel uneasy. "Forget it, I won't ask anymore. You probably don't even know. However, when you see me, this old man, you should at least kowtow to me. Why do you still have such an attitude?" The old freak spoke. Qin Wendian rolled his eyes and ignored the old freak. "After I died, what happened to the Evergreen Kingdom?" Qin Wendian asked. "After you died, the battle stopped. As for what happened to them now, I have no idea. However, you better worry about yourself first. Right now, other than your soul energy, you don't even have a physical body. You actually still have the mood to think about other things." The old freak spoke with interest. "Didn't you impart the undying scripture to me? As long as my soul doesn't die, I'm also undying. What's there to worry about?" Qin Wendian asked. "Hee, why don't you try forging a physical body?" The old freak smiled as he stared at Qin Wendian, like he was looking at a rare treasure. The uneasiness in Qin Wendian's heart grew even more intense. Qin Wendian's soul body nodded. After that, he sat down cross-legged as flesh, blood, tendons, and bones gradually appeared on his soul body. After a long time, his soul was enveloped by a physical body. This was a complete physical body with no flaws at all, exactly the same as Qin Wendian in the past. But when Qin Wendian opened his eyes, he was staring ahead in a daze, his gaze somewhat lifeless. Stretching out his hands, Qin Wendian stared at his glowing skin as he mumbled, "Do I have to start all over again?" Only when his physical body was being rebuilt did he realize that this time around he had truly died once and wasn't merely heavily injured. His physical body was shattered and his soul was almost destroyed as well. Only a trace of indestructibility remained, allowing him to come back to life. But the result was that although his soul energy was still extremely strong, his physical body was now completely empty. However, his reconstructed body was empty. There was no power of the stars, let alone the power of rules. He had become an ordinary person through and through. "Am I crippled?" Qin Wendian mumbled. "Haha." The sloppy madman suddenly laughed uproariously. He inclined his head, his eyes seemed to be able to penetrate through the void as he sighed. "There's actually such a foolish person like you in the world. Do you know what sort of good fortune this is? Even those supreme characters would be willing to pay any price for such a good fortune. But you actually have such thoughts? Good fortune." Qin Wendian froze for a moment before his eyes flickered. In an instant, Qin Wendian's heart violently trembled. He sensed the energy of the heavens and earth, as well as the flow of astral energy. Indeed, it was incomparably clear. As though he suddenly thought of something, Qin Wendian abruptly closed his eyes. After that, his perception soared upwards. Not long after, when Qin Wendian opened his eyes again, a sharp light flashed as he was in high spirits. He glanced at the crazy old man and understood why the crazy old man was laughing so loudly. "Do you understand now?" The old freak smiled as he stared at Qin Wendian. "Many thanks, Senior." Qin Wendian bowed. "You are finally willing to call me Senior?" The crazy old freak stretched out his hand and pushed his long hair to the back. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Qin Wendian as he smiled. "So what if you have to restart your cultivation? Do you know how many characters didn't hesitate to reincarnate? Yet, they didn't have such good fortune like you. You have a powerful soul and experience, and with the advantage of astral souls, how fast would your cultivation speed be? As for your cultivation base, with your previous insights, would there still be any obstacles before the immortal Emperor realm?" Qin Wendian nodded. "Before this, did you sense the 9th heavenly layer?" The crazy old man laughed. Qin Wenin stared at him as he replied, "The 8th heavenly layer." This time around, it was the crazy old man's turn to be stunned. After that, he started laughing maniacally again. "The 8th heavenly layer, my first constellation is from the 8th heavenly layer. In the future, all my astral souls will originate from the 8th heavenly layer and I can choose them again." Chapter 1534. Qin Wentian's heart trembled as he stared at the crazy old man who was laughing uproariously. 8th heavenly layer. Also, from the first astral soul onwards, 9 astral souls were condensed from constellations in the 8th heavenly layer. Qin Wenin naturally understood what this meant. It meant that at the same cultivation level, he could easily insta-kill his opponents. Even if he only relied on the advantage of astral souls, the astral energy in his body was innately powerful. Even if he comprehended laws of the same attribute, his law energy would still be stronger compared to others. In addition, he could choose a new combination of astral souls. Given his past talent, in addition to such a heaven-defying opportunity, what sort of monster would he become? Qin Wentian's heart pounded. He actually didn't feel any frustration from having his cultivation crippled. How intelligent was Qin Wenin? After a brief moment of absent-mindedness, he instantly understood after the crazy old man's reminder. It was impossible for stellar martial cultivators to succeed in a single step. Although he originally had the soul of an immortal king, his body was a reconstructed one. There was no astral energy, no arterial pathways, no yuanfu, and no immortal foundation. But so what of it? His soul was already at that level. In addition to his cultivation experience and talent, and now that he condensed an astral soul, how fast would his cultivation speed be? At the very least, Qin Wenin was confident that before he reached immortal foundation, he would be able to become an immortal in just a few years. What could this amount of time count for to immortal foundation characters? Could it be that this wasn't considered a heaven-defying opportunity? The crazy old man narrowed his eyes as he stared at Qin Wenin. In the upper immortal realms, there are many characters you wouldn't be able to come into contact with. They used all sorts of methods, rebirth, reincarnation, all for the sake of breaking through some shackles. But who would have thought that this good fortune of yours would actually fall into your lap? Qin Wenin shook his head and smiled bitterly. To him, this was truly an accident. He narrowly lost his life, his fleshly body shattered and his soul was almost destroyed. Coincidentally, he was absorbed by the tiny astral being, and in addition to the fact that he cultivated the undying scripture, he managed to recover his soul. This was the reason why he obtained such a good fortune. If it was someone else, could it be that his soul was destroyed? That would be a true death. Although he didn't know whether the tiny astral being or the undying scripture played a greater role in him escaping this calamity, he knew that both of them played a significant role. Also, the undying scripture was a heaven-defying art that couldn't be obtained by just anyone. The old freak standing in front of him had a mysterious identity and most probably had a terrifying origin. As for the others, so what if you cultivated the undying scripture? Could it be that you want others to destroy your soul? Who could control and blast you until you just happen to be left with a remnant soul? Even if there really was such a brilliant person, would a powerful person dare to do so? What if the other party really wanted to kill him? This was simply courting death. What a pity! Qin Wenin suddenly let out a sigh. His bloodline had also disappeared. However, with this opportunity, even without the support of the bloodline, he would still be more terrifying than before. Moreover, he had cultivated an outer body incarnation, which had the power of the bloodline. Senior, you seem to be very familiar with the other immortal realms. Out of the 33 immortal realms, what grade does the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms belong to? Qin Wenin asked the old freak. Earlier, although the old freak only casually spoke a few sentences, he could tell that he understood the immortal realms outside of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. There's no grade. The 33 immortal realms are all cultivation grounds. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms are the same as the other immortal realms. It's just that the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms is a little special and is isolated from the other immortal realms. The old freak inclined his head and stared at the sky as he spoke. Isolated? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Senior, please enlighten me. Seems like you already know that you can no longer stay in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Might as well, let me introduce you to the other immortal realms. The old freak stared at Qin Wenyan. After that, he slowly continued, Earlier, I've already said that the 33 immortal realms are all cultivation grounds. However, even for the same immortal realms, there are differences in strength. This is especially so after countless years of evolution. The structure of the immortal realms gradually formed. The old freak stared at Qin Wenyan. The supreme ancient immortal realms that are located at the highest point of the 33 immortal realms have become the gathering ground of the supreme powers, standing above all the other immortal realms. In fact, they are known as the upper worlds. As for why such a structure was formed, even I have no idea. It's the evolution of history. You only need to understand that the supreme ancient immortal realms are the rulers of the 33 immortal realms, standing above all other immortal realms. In fact, the vast majority of the immortal realms in the 33 immortal realms are directly governed by the supreme powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Even the vast majority of the immortal realms were governed by supreme powers? How strong were those powers exactly? Most probably, they weren't on the same level as the powers in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Or they could be destroyed with a flick of a finger. Qin Wenyan involuntarily thought of the powerful ancient clan his father was from. He wondered what level that clan belonged to. Given how powerful his father was, he was still so cautious. Even in a particle world, he didn't dare to show himself easily. In that case, the clan his father was from must be extremely terrifying to the extreme, an existence that could cover the sky with a single hand. Also, if he didn't guess wrongly, his clan should be in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Not only is the supreme ancient immortal realms the supreme immortal realms, it's also located at the very center of the 33 immortal realms. From what I know, there are a few supreme hegemons in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Each of them doesn't just govern a single immortal realm, they occupy a few other immortal realms. Over there, people only worship them. Maybe it's hard for you to understand, let me tell you in more detail. For example, in the western region of the supreme ancient immortal realms, there are 4 immortal realms that are governed by a supreme Buddhist sect. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. In the upper world, there was actually such a terrifying Buddhist sect in the supreme ancient immortal realms that governed 4 immortal realms? This was simply too terrifying. Naturally, among the countless living beings in the world, because of their different talents, other than Buddhist cultivators, there would naturally be different types of wuxiu. But in the 4 immortal realms in the western region, the power of the Buddhist Tao has already reached a level where it can rule over everything. Hence, the foundation of the Buddhist Tao is naturally the deepest. The strongest innate techniques and cultivation arts are all from the Buddhist path. For immortal realms, no matter how strong a power is, it would be hard for them to govern them, right? How should they govern them? Qin Wenyan asked. Naive. No matter what, you have already cultivated to the peak stage of the immortal king realm and are only a step away from the immortal emperor realm. To think that you are so foolish. When one's power is strong enough, would there still be a need to govern them? The crazy old freak stared at Qin Wenyan in disdain. Each immortal realm is a complete world and has its own laws of operation. For example, this Azure Mystic Immortal Realms is the same. If the upper world sent a supreme power to guard this place, and there are ancient emperors among them, would there still be a need to govern them? Qin Wenyan nodded. This was indeed the case. After all, this was a world where cultivation reigned supreme. When one's strength reached a certain level, everything would be simple. They only needed to maintain their strength. If not, once they fell, they would naturally lose control of the immortal realms. Why isn't the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms governed by a supreme power? Qin Wenyan curiously asked. After the crazy old freak said this, he felt that the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms were a little special. They actually had no way to know any news about the upper world. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? The crazy old freak laughed. Because there's someone who doesn't allow people from the upper world to enter the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed. There was actually such a terrifying existence? Earlier, this old freak has already said that there were some supreme hegemons in the upper world who were able to control several immortal realms. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying the peak experts of the upper world were. Yet, there was actually someone who dared to forbid people from the upper world. Such a character was definitely a legendary character. Naturally, for those at or below the immortal emperor realm, he wouldn't obstruct them. It's just that those people might not be able to traverse the immortal realms. The crazy old freak continued. Senior, you said that those supreme hegemons in the supreme ancient immortal realms control the vast majority of the immortal realms. In that case, how can those existences in the supreme ancient immortal realms allow such an arrogant character to exist? Qin Wenian curiously asked. The formation of the supreme ancient immortal realms was formed after countless years of evolution. It's extremely difficult to shake it up. There are a few supreme hegemonic powers that control the immortal realms, constantly providing them with the most outstanding geniuses. But in the supreme ancient immortal realms, there are still some powers that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the supreme hegemonic powers. Although they didn't control the immortal realms in the lower world, their foundations are very deep. It's basically something you can't imagine. These powers are naturally those at the peak of the pyramid, far out of your reach. Other than this, there are also some lower-tier powers that also need to unearth geniuses. Hence, the city of ancient emperors and Tao elements were created. Naturally, even for those peak powers, you have to look up to them. The crazy old freak slowly spoke. These words were all considered secrets to the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. The people in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms knew very little about the 33 Immortal Realms. But this crazy old freak before him seemed to understand it very well. Not only so, he seemed to know everything about the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms like the back of his hand. Qin Wentian couldn't help but to stare at him in bewilderment. He asked, "Senior, who are you exactly?" The crazy old freak glared at him. He couldn't be bothered to say anything more. He then spoke, "It's still hard for you to understand even if I tell you all this now. In the future, you will naturally understand. I'm telling you all this because I want you to decide. If I can send you to the other immortal realms, will you go or not?" Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with sharpness. This crazy old freak was truly powerful. To think that he could actually send him out. If I leave this immortal realms, wouldn't I be imprisoned when I return? Qin Wenian worriedly spoke. That person doesn't restrict people from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. As long as you can return, you can do so. The crazy old freak spoke. I'll go. Qin Wenian didn't hesitate as he spoke. Although his cultivation speed would definitely be very fast, even if he returned to the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, there was still the Immortal Emperor realm above him. He might have to reach the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm before he would be able to dominate the Azure Mystic Immortal realms. During this period of time, it was basically impossible for him to remain here. Do you want to go to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms or the other Immortal Realms? The crazy old freak asked again. The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian still didn't hesitate. If he wanted to go, he would naturally go to the strongest immortal realms. Chapter 1535. The crazy old freak had a deep smile on his face when he heard Qin Wentian's words. He then spoke, "Are you sure you want to go? Let me remind you. Even if you recover your past strength and break through to the Immortal Emperor realm, there are still many major characters in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms that can kill you. Other than the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, there are also many other powerful immortal realms that are much stronger compared to the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Do you not want to consider it?" Qin Wenian stared at the smile on the old freak's face as he spoke with certainty. "There's no need to consider it. I'm going to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms." Right now, it wasn't so easy to scare him. Although the supreme ancient immortal realms was the most supreme immortal realm among the 33 heavenly realms, and there were indeed many people who could kill him, the stronger the immortal realms were, the greater the population. It was unknown how many low-level stellar martial cultivators stood beneath every peak character. Hence, even in the supreme ancient immortal realms, unless one reached the peak, although an immortal emperor wouldn't be considered a major character like the Azure Mystic immortal realms, they couldn't be considered weak no matter what. You have guts. In that case, you should cultivate well and recover your strength first. You know nothing about the supreme ancient immortal realms. If you go there like this, even an ant would be able to squish you to death. The crazy old freak laughed. Qin Wendian nodded. This was the truth. At the very least, he definitely couldn't go there now. Think carefully about what type of astral soul you want to cultivate. After speaking, the old freak's silhouette flashed as he vanished. Qin Wendian couldn't even see his silhouette clearly. It was too fast. Astral soul? Qin Wendian inclined his head and stared at the sky. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms was actually a forbidden immortal realm. In that case, back then when his father chose to cultivate his second life in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, was this also the reason? The power of his clan was simply too powerful. Hence, he intentionally chose to hide in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms or even in a particle world. Also, even after he was born, he was still extremely careful, not daring to show his face. Uncle Black and the others were the same as well. Qin Wendian suddenly thought of the fact that his bloodline had vanished. If he was in the upper world and his bloodline was awakened again, most probably there would be major characters who would recognize him, right? And now he just happened to have nothing to worry about. Was this a coincidence? Closing his eyes and retracting his state of mind, Qin Wendian's perception soared upwards, traversing numerous astral rivers and arriving at the 8th heavenly layer. His target was very clear. He directly chose the constellation he was familiar with back then. This constellation was a dual-attribute constellation that contained devil attribute energy as well as undying energy. When the astral soul was condensed, a tyrannical aura gushed forth from Qin Wendian. A devil king-like silhouette appeared. Qin Wendian was like a terrifying devil cultivator. Although his cultivation base was still at the lowest level, the might he exuded was enough to cause the hearts and souls of people to tremble in fear. Originally, this was supposed to be Qin Wendian's 7th astral soul. But now it was his first astral soul. The disparity between the two was simply unimaginable. As for why he chose this constellation, there were two reasons. One of them was the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign, and the other was the undying attribute. His soul had cultivated the undying scripture, and his fleshly body also had the undying attribute. This would undoubtedly give him an advantage in future battles. Rumbling sounds rang out as Qin Wendian started his cultivation. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. During these 3 years, Qin Wendian's demeanor underwent a great change, regaining his former glory. His eyes shone resplendently, and he was incomparably handsome. As for his current cultivation base, he was at the immortal foundation realm. Such a cultivation speed was simply shocking. However, his undying scripture allowed his soul to recover before he started cultivating again. His foundation was extremely sturdy, and in addition to the heaven-defying astral souls in his body, Qin Wendian didn't feel anything strange about such a cultivation speed. In fact, if it wasn't for him choosing a different astral soul and cultivation art, and needing to comprehend some abilities from scratch, his cultivation speed might be even faster. At this moment, a figure silently appeared before Qin Wendian. Given your current soul strength and immortal foundation, you should be able to handle some simple matters. You can head to the supreme ancient immortal realms now. I will follow Senior's arrangements. It's just that before this, I still have something I need to do. Qin Wendian nodded. With regards to this crazy old man, Qin Wendian felt heartfelt gratitude in his heart. You want to go out and tell your wife that you are still alive? The crazy old man seemed to know Qin Wendian like the back of his hand. He instantly guessed what Qin Wendian was thinking. Don't worry, I will send someone to accompany you to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Let her make this trip in your stead. Qin Wendian felt somewhat puzzled, but he still nodded his head. In the highest level of the city of ancient emperors, Princess Kitamura sat cross-legged and quietly cultivated. She didn't inherit any Tao elements. Although her talent was outstanding, she was only at the initial stage of the immortal emperor realm and wasn't that conspicuous. This was the world of peak-stage immortal emperors. She wasn't that famous and didn't have much emperor's fate. Although she had comprehended some Tao elements, she didn't receive any Tao elements. At this moment, she was sitting cross-legged and quietly cultivating. "Little lass, come out." A voice rang out in Princess Kitamura's mind, causing Princess Kitamura's heart to tremble. Her beautiful eyes opened, gleaming with sharpness. Right now, there was only one person who dared to call her this. But after that, her beautiful eyes flashed with shock. This old fellow could actually transmit his voice into the city of ancient emperors. How terrifying was he exactly? With a flash of her silhouette, Princess Kitamura prepared to leave the city of ancient emperors with no hesitation. After that, she rushed to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. In fact, she didn't even head to the royal palace. She went straight to the forbidden grounds of the immortal Law Mountain, arriving at the ruins. "I'm here." Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flickered with stubbornness. Although she was now an immortal emperor, exuding boundless magnificence through the generations, in front of that old fellow, she actually felt like a little lass. This was simply inconceivable. A sloppy-looking figure appeared before Princess Kitamura. His gaze was blocked by his long hair, appearing somewhat turbid. "Back then, you told me to save that brat, but I didn't. Do you feel some resentment towards me?" Princess Kitamura started. She didn't expect the crazy old man to bring up this matter. Although she wasn't willing to admit it, maybe, back then when she came here, she really did want to hint to the crazy old man to save Qin Wenyan. "This has nothing to do with you." Princess Kitamura shook her head, feeling a little sad as she thought back to the battle back then. "In that case, back then, you really wanted me to save him?" The old fellow's turbid eyes brightened as he smiled at her. Princess Kitamura started. "After that," she replied, "if you asked me to come here just to ask about this matter, I will leave first." After speaking, she actually really turned around, intending to leave. "What if I tell you that I can still save him now?" The voice of the crazy old man rang out, causing Princess Kitamura to stiffen as her heart trembled. After that, she slowly turned and stared at the crazy old man. "Really? Do you think I would lie?" The crazy old man unhappily spoke. "It's just that it would take some effort and I can't be bothered to do it. Senior, no matter what, he can be considered your successor, right? Are you going to watch him die and not save him?" Princess Kitamura stared at the crazy old man. If it was someone else who said this, she wouldn't believe it. But for this old man, she believed that he would be able to do it. "However, since I casually gave him a cultivation art, I can also give it to others. In addition, you seem to be very unhappy with him. I came here because I want to ask you if there's anyone with outstanding talent who you like. I'm prepared to impart a cultivation art to him." The crazy old man calmly spoke. Princess Kitamura stared at the crazy old man, thinking back to that intense battle. That unruly silhouette who killed 3 immortal emperors, that smile on his face before he died. Her beautiful eyes stared ahead as she bowed. "Given how vast the immortal realms are, I'm afraid there's no one more suitable than him to inherit your legacy. I hope that Senior can save him." "Is that so?" The crazy old man seemed to hesitate. Princess Kitamura nervously stared at him, but after that, the crazy old man shook his head. "It's still not possible. His soul has already dissipated and the price to save him isn't small. Also, you don't have any feelings for him. Wouldn't that be a waste of effort?" Princess Kitamura felt a chill in her heart. After that, she bit her lips and replied, "I still have feelings for him." The crazy old man narrowed his eyes as he smiled, staring at Princess Kitamura. Princess Kitamura's face was so beautiful that it seemed as though water could be squeezed out of it. But when she thought about how she said that because she wanted to save him, her heart calmed down a little. Luckily, at least I didn't waste my effort." The crazy old freak sighed. After that, he waved his hand and brought Baiming Yuhuang into the ruins. An instant later, when Baiming Yuhuang saw a figure sitting cross-legged before her, her beautiful eyes widened as disbelief flashed in her eyes. Qin Wendian also started. After that, he smiled and nodded to Princess Kitamura. He should have guessed that it was her. Old bastard? Princess Kitamura coldly stared at the crazy old man. Clearly, she knew that she was being played. What did you call me? The crazy old man smiled at Princess Kitamura. What did you say earlier? Brat, your luck with women isn't bad at all. Princess Kitamura's eyes widened even more. She was an immortal emperor, but right now, she was so embarrassed that she didn't know how to show her face. Senior, Junior had a slip of the tongue. I know my mistake now. Is that so? The crazy old man laughed. He glanced at Qin Wenyan before turning to Princess Kitamura. That smile of his seemed to have a deeper meaning to it. Qin Wenyan was confused. He blinked his eyes, staring at Princess Kitamura's beautiful countenance. There was actually a hint of shyness in her eyes. But very swiftly after, she coldly glanced at Qin Wenyan, like an iceberg. What are you looking at? Qin Wenyan's face was filled with black lines. He really wanted to retort, but when he thought about the fact that he had a favor to ask, he replied, Princess Yuang, we are truly fated. Right now, I have a small request to make. I hope that Princess won't reject it. What's the matter? Princess Kitamura asked. I wish to borrow your body to make a trip to the Evergreen Kingdom to see my wife. Qin Wendian spoke. Just when Baiming Yuhuang wanted to reject, she suddenly thought back to the tragic scene in the past. Her hair turned white in an instant, as well as those deathly gray eyes. Her heart involuntarily softened as she nodded. However, her voice was still as cold as ever as she spoke. Fine, I will go there in your place. The crazy old man laughed when he saw this scene, feeling that his scheme had succeeded. This time around, he was worried that Qin Wenyan would head to the supreme ancient immortal realms alone. But now, upon seeing Princess Kitamura's attitude, he relaxed a little. After so many years, it truly wasn't easy to find such a good seedling. Chapter 1536. In the Evergreen Kingdom, in the princess residence of the royal palace. Two young ladies sat together and chatted. Both of them were slender and elegant, pure and beautiful. However, a faint sorrow could be seen in the space between their brows. Elder sister, if elder sister Qingqing continues to be like this, I'm worried that she would collapse sooner or later. Can you think of a solution? The slightly younger lady glanced at the lady beside her. The two of them were sisters. It's not like you don't know about the relationship between elder sister Qingqing and master. Unless master comes back to life, otherwise. The young lady at the side sighed. So it turned out that these two were none other than the disciples Qin Wenyan accepted back then when he brought Qing heir Qingqing to roam the immortal realms, Ji Yan and Ji Ran. The light in Ji Ran's eyes dimmed. Evidently, she also knew that her elder sister's words were right. Qingqing, is she still like this? At this moment, a voice drifted over. The two sisters instantly rushed over. Elder sister Qing heir. The two of them called out in unison. A supreme beauty appeared before them. Her hair was as white as snow and her aura was even colder compared to before. Even Jian and Ji Ran could clearly sense the coldness radiating from Qing heir. We are useless. The two of them lowered their heads as though they had done something wrong. I don't blame you. Qing heir sighed. As your mistress, I didn't do my duty and have never taught you anything. In addition, I might not have the time in the future. Do you two want to go out and cultivate? I can get others to guide you. Ji Yan and Ji Ran shook their heads at the same time. Ji Ran spoke, Elder sister Qing heir, don't chase us away. We are willing to take care of elder sister Qingqing until she recovers. We won't feel at ease if others take care of elder sister Qingqing. After she recovers, elder sister Qing heir can find others to guide us. Qing heir rubbed the heads of the two of them as she sighed in her heart. Her gaze then turned to the area behind the two of them. Over there was a white-robed figure with an extremely beautiful countenance. However, she was extremely haggard and her eyes were empty. With regards to the arrival of Qing heir, she didn't seem to have any reaction at all. She only stared ahead in a daze, with no spirit in her eyes. In fact, one couldn't even sense any signs of life from her. She was like a zombie. Qingqing. Qing'er felt pain in her heart when she saw this scene. Although she was cultivating in the city of ancient emperors, she would occasionally return to visit Qingqing. However, it was useless. It had been 10 years, and Qingqing didn't eat or drink for a total of 10 years. Even her clothes were changed by Ji Yan and Ji Ran. She was truly like a zombie. Because she was worried that something might happen to her, she ordered people to protect her day and night. After that, Ji Yan and Ji Ran volunteered to stay by Qingqing's side. Wenyan will definitely return, he definitely will. He hasn't died yet. Qingqing, why are you unwilling to believe me? Qing'er also felt pain in her heart when she saw Qingqing's current state. She had promised Qin Wenyan that she would take care of her, but Qingqing didn't need any care at all. She had personally witnessed Qin Wenyan being blasted into smithereens in front of her. At that moment, her heart had already died. No matter what Qing'er said, she wouldn't have any reaction. Princess. At this moment, a voice drifted over as a strand of immortal sense descended. Upon seeing Qing'er's return, the immortal sense immediately called out respectfully. Who allowed you to spy on this place? Qing'er's eyes were cold. Her immortal sense swept out, feeling a bone-piercing coldness. Outside the princess residence, a serving girl instantly turned pale. Princess, this subordinate didn't do it intentionally. It's just that the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Princess Kitamura, wishes to meet you. I initially wanted to inform Miss Ji Yan and Miss Ji Ran, but I didn't expect that princess would return. Princess Kitamura? Qing'er frowned as cold intent flashed in her eyes. I won't meet her. However, at this moment, the sound of sonic booms rang out as a figure directly appeared in the princess residence. In the air, Princess Kitamura's magnificence was unmatched. She directly appeared here, and when she glanced at Qing'er and Qingqing, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. What do you mean by this? Qing'er's expression turned even colder. I have news about Qin Wenyan. Let's find a secluded place, I want to talk to you alone. Princess Kitamura transmitted her voice over. In an instant, Qing'er's cold eyes gleamed with a dazzling light, as though she wanted to see through Princess Kitamura. After that, she spoke, Come with me. Bring her along as well. Princess Kitamura transmitted her voice over. Evidently, she was referring to Qingqing. Tian, Jiren, leave Qingqing to me. You guys wait here for me. Qing'er spoke. After that, she turned her gaze outside, retreat. A reply rang out from outside. Qing'er carried Qingqing and led the way. Princess Kitamura followed her as they arrived at Qing'er's palace. You have news about him? Qing'er stared at Princess Kitamura as she asked. Qing'er, Qingqing. A voice rang out. In an instant, Qing'er's cold eyes froze as her entire person froze on the spot. Qingqing's empty eyes also moved. A bright light flashed as a figure formed from an immortal sense appeared in this space. You guys chat, I will take my leave first. Princess Kitamura directly left. With a wave of her hand, she sealed the palace as she soared through the air. That immortal sense was an ordinary immortal sense that Qin Wenyan had left on her. It wouldn't be able to exist for too long and would dissipate by itself. Qin Wenyan did this because he was worried about Qing'er and Qingqing. As for what Princess Kitamura wanted to do, she had already completed it. Qing'er naturally wouldn't mind the departure of Princess Kitamura. At this moment, she stared dumbfoundedly at the figure that appeared. Qingqing's empty eyes gradually regained their luster. Her eyes grew brighter and brighter, becoming incomparably resplendent. Wenyan, is it really you? Qingqing's eyes instantly turned moist. She walked forward step by step, as though she was in a dream. Qingqing, it's me. Qin Wenyan stared at Qing'er's snow-white hair as well as the lifeless eyes of Qingqing. He felt an intense pain in his heart. At this moment, he hated himself. He actually caused them to suffer such torment for a total of 10 years. To them, these 10 years were even more painful than death. Mo Qingqing bit her lips. She actually bit down hard, causing fresh blood to seep out. She could feel the pain and stretched her hand out to wipe her lips. When she saw the fresh blood, when she inclined her head again, she couldn't hold it in any longer. Her tears fell like rain as she stretched out her trembling hand, wanting to touch Qin Wentian's body. However, Qin Wentian's body seemed illusory and real at the same time. He stretched out his hand as a gentle energy gently caressed Mo Qingqing's long hair. "Silly lass, this is my immortal sense." Mo Qingqing's tears flowed down her face. Her body trembled unceasingly as she sobbed. She stretched out her hands, wanting to touch Qin Wentian's face. It was as though she still couldn't believe it. "Wenyan, are you really still alive?" Seeing Mo Qingqing in such a state, Qin Wenyan felt even more unbearable in his heart. Qing'er didn't move forward. She simply stood at her original location. Back then when Qin Wenyan died, she still had a radiant smile on her face. But now, tears finally flowed down her face. Although she long knew that Qin Wenyan still had an avatar that was still alive, she couldn't help but cry. "Qingqing, Qing'er, I'm perfectly fine now. Why are you two crying?" Qin Wentian's eyes turned sour. When he saw the two of them in such a state, he was filled with boundless sadness. However, he still smiled and spoke. He couldn't bear to see the two of them worrying too much. "I won't cry." She stretched out her hand and wiped away her tears. There were still traces of tears on her face. Qin Wenyan stared at her haggard countenance, which was still as beautiful as ever. He gently spoke, "That's more like it. In the future, if I'm not around, you two are not allowed to cry anymore." Mo Qingqing nodded her head forcefully. "As long as you can return, I will always wait for you. You can say anything you want." "Silly lass." Qin Wentian's voice was gentle. Qing'er continued standing there. Although she also wanted to go over, she was willing to give this bit of time to Qingqing. As long as she could see that he was fine, she would be very satisfied. "Wenyan, is this body of yours also in the immortal realms?" Qing'er asked in a light voice. She really wanted to see him. "Qing'er, this is the immortal sense of my original body." Qin Wenyan replied, his words causing Qing'er's beautiful eyes to stiffen. After that, a look of wild joy appeared on her face as she asked in a trembling voice, "Really?" Back then, even though she knew that Qin Wenyan had an avatar, when she saw Qin Wentian's true body being destroyed in front of her, she was still extremely heartbroken. Her hair turned white in an instant. The person who died in front of her was the person she loved the most. Even if he had an avatar, she was still willing to use her life to exchange for his. If not, she wouldn't have hidden it from Qin Wentian back then, wanting to send herself to death by leaving the city of ancient emperors. When she learned that Qin Wentian's true body didn't die, one could very well imagine how she felt right now. "The two of you, why don't you believe me today?" Qin Wenyan bitterly smiled. "In that battle back then, I could be considered to have died. But due to a stroke of good fortune, I encountered a miraculous expert from the immortal realms and gradually recovered. However, I might have to leave the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms next. That senior will send me to the strongest immortal realms in the 33 immortal realms, the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms." "The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms?" Qing'er mumbled, faintly believing Qin Wentian's words. Earlier, she did suspect that Qin Wentian was lying to her. Because, in order to console them, Qin Wentian might have lied. In addition, that miraculous expert is currently in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. If not, I wouldn't have borrowed the strength of Princess Kitamura to come here. After I leave, I will definitely return. You guys have to live well, there's no need to worry for me. The day I return, the heavens of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms will change." Qin Wentian spoke heroically. And as expected, after hearing Qin Wentian's words, Qing'er's smile grew even more radiant, incomparably beautiful. "My immortal sense also contains some memories. This immortal sense will transform into memories and transmit them to you. Qing, your talent is very high. After I leave, I will leave this last Qingqing to you." Qin Wentian gently patted Qingqing's head. The gaze of this lass earlier caused him to feel a sense of fear. Qing seriously nodded. Also, I don't know what will happen to Qingqing after she learns of my death. But she would surely be extremely sad. You have to think of a way to tell her that I'm still alive. Qin Wendian instructed. Qing's heart trembled when she thought of those beautiful eyes that were filled with tears of blood. She nodded seriously and asked, "What about Jun Mingchen and Little Rascal?" "There's no need to tell them. That fellow Mingchen thinks that I'm dead and would definitely want to take revenge for me. This is a good opportunity to agitate him a little. As for that Little Rascal, it's about time for him to work hard in his cultivation. It's just that purgatory is in a pitiful state." Qin Wendian slowly spoke. "The time is almost up. You guys have to wait for my return." The two maidens seriously nodded. After that, Qin Wendian's immortal sense transformed into a beam of light that shot towards the center of Qing Er's brows. Qing Er naturally wouldn't resist. After this day, Qing Er started to cultivate day and night. As for Qingqing, she gradually regained her former radiance. As for Qin Wendian, he and Princess Kitamura were silently sent out of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Chapter 1537. The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, the Supreme Immortal Realms of the 33 Heavens. The Lifelong Realm was a part of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and was governed by the Lifelong Realm Lord. The Lifelong Realm was extremely vast and there were countless cities here. All of them were managed by the Lifelong Realm Lord's subordinates. Wind Thunder City was flourishing like a brocade. Many experts were strolling in the city. Jialan Mingyue was in a very good mood today. She, who was still young, finally broke through to the Immortal King realm some time ago. After stabilizing her cultivation base, her father passed a city to her to manage. Hence, she, who was still very young, became the city lord of Wind Thunder City. At this moment, she was in a divine weapon trading pavilion in Wind Thunder City, choosing a divine weapon. "Miss, if you need a divine weapon, why don't you just ask the monarch to find someone to forge one for you? Why is there a need to go through so much trouble?" Jialan Mingyue had many female protectors around her. All of them were at the Immortal King realm. All of them were stronger than her, but who asked her to have such a high status? The people around her all understood that the Jialan monarch passed this city to her purely for her to play around with. Who asked this Jialan Mingyue to be the daughter of the monarch's beloved concubine? Even for Jialan Mingyue's current cultivation base, it was all because of resources. Now that this Wind Thunder City belonged to her, she would be able to obtain a lot of cultivation resources every year. The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was the Supreme Immortal Realms of the 33 Heavens. The cultivation resources here weren't something the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms could compare to. In addition, in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, those peak powers had extremely strong control over their territories. This point was also very different from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. "Why must I trouble father?" Jialan Mingyue smiled. A myriad of emotions could be seen in her eyes. She pointed to a beautiful divine robe in the trading pavilion and asked, "What's the price of that divine weapon?" "Since Miss likes it, how would I dare to ask for a price?" The shopkeeper immediately went over to retrieve it and passed it to Jialan Mingyue with both hands. Jialan Mingyue's lips curled up in a satisfied smile. After walking around, she finally walked out in satisfaction. Outside, there was a group of silver-robed guards waiting for her. There was also a powerful lightning beast. It was a demon king. "Let's go and take a look at other places." Jialan Mingyue laughed. She sat on the back of the gigantic beast and the people in the surroundings all opened up for her. However, she was silently cursing the Jialan monarch in her heart. To think that he actually arranged for his unruly daughter to govern an entire city, bringing disaster to many merchants. Naturally, none of them dared to say this out loud. The Jialan monarch himself also understood that in his territory, no matter how his daughter caused trouble, it wouldn't matter at all. This was power. Roar. At this moment, the lightning beast let out a low-sounding roar. It inclined its head and stared up into the air. Jialan Mingyue and the others also turned their gazes upwards only to see two figures descending from the sky as their immortal senses swept over. The silhouettes of these two people gradually became clearer, causing the eyes of many to narrow as expressions of shock appeared on their faces. The two people in the air were actually extremely breathtaking. It was a man and a woman. There was a mysterious radiance around the man's body, and there was even a divine aura about him. He was extraordinary and refined. His face was handsome, and it made people sigh in admiration. What a handsome man! As for the woman beside him, she had a peerless countenance, exuding a sense of nobility and coldness. The moment people glanced at her, they found it hard to shift their gazes away. What a beautiful couple! It was as though they had walked out from a painting. Staring at the woman in the air, Jialan Mingyue actually felt a sense of inferiority in her heart. This made her feel somewhat uncomfortable. These two were none other than Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyan, who came from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Is this place really the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? Yuang, who is that old freak? He is actually so powerful? Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to Princess Kitamura as he surveyed the surroundings below. I don't know, just call me by my full name. Princess Kitamura replied coldly. How could her heart not be filled with great waves of shock? That crazy old freak actually set up a supreme spatial formation in the forbidden grounds of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? She simply didn't dare to imagine how terrifying it was. They actually managed to complete a spatial traversal. Yu Huang, since you agreed to come to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms with me, we will be roaming the immortal realms together. Why is there a need to be so distant? Qin Wenyan spoke, turning his gaze towards Jialan Mingyue. There were several immortal kings among them, all of them were extraordinary. Who wants to be together with you? Since we are already in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, you can go your own way and I will go mine. We have nothing to do with each other. Princess Kitamura impolitely transmitted her voice over. Qin Wenyan abruptly halted as he stared at her in astonishment. Yu Huang, you can't be so ruthless, right? However, Princess Kitamura couldn't be bothered to care about him. Qin Wenyan wanted to cry but no tears came out. This crazy old freak, this time around, he should have cultivated for a few more years and come back after he reached the Immortal King realm. Right now, he was just an immortal foundation expert and the cultivation bases of the people below were all higher than him. How miserable. Seems like he had to find a place to raise his cultivation base first. Women were unreliable. Below, Jialan Mingyue couldn't help but frown when she saw the two of them chatting in the air. Get the two of them to come down and reply. An immortal king guard behind her nodded. His silhouette flashed as he soared up into the air. He cast a deep glance at Princess Kitamura, feeling that her beauty was breathtaking, causing great waves to ripple in his heart. The two of you, the city lord has something to ask the two of you. Please follow me down. That guard spoke. Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyan both frowned. That young woman was the city lord of this city? Among the two of them, one was the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, an immortal emperor character. As for the other, although he was only at the Immortal Foundation realm, he had even killed immortal emperors before. He naturally wouldn't place these few immortal kings in his eyes. But after contemplating for a moment, they decided not to do anything and continued to descend. After all, this place was the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. They had just arrived here and it was best to first understand the situation in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Miss, do you have any instructions? Qin Wenyan came before Jialan Mingyue as he smiled. He didn't expect Princess Kitamura, this immortal emperor princess, to be polite in front of this female immortal king. Hence, he took the initiative to speak. Where are you guys from? Jialan Mingyue asked. We are cultivators from the wilderness. We casually roamed the wilderness and ended up here. Qin Wenyan replied. In that case, you guys are unaffiliated cultivators? Jialan Mingyue's beautiful eyes flashed. Qin Wenyan nodded his head. I'm the city lord of Wind Thunder City, a subordinate of the Jialan monarch. Since you guys are unaffiliated cultivators, are you willing to follow me? Jialan Mingyue stared at Qin Wenyin as a light smile appeared on her face. Although the cultivation of this young man before her was on the lower side, only at the Immortal Foundation realm, he was extremely handsome and exuded an extraordinary aura. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have him follow her. As for this woman, her cultivation base was even higher than hers, and she was also beautiful. There might be a special use for her if she kept her by her side. Qin Wenyin was astonished. Were the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms so direct? Although his cultivation base was low, Princess Kitamura and the others couldn't see through him at all. They actually dared to recruit him as their subordinate? Miss is the daughter of the Jialan monarch. An immortal king behind Jialan Mingyue reminded. I'm used to being unaffiliated, please don't blame me. Qin Wendian tactfully spoke. What a joke! The daughter of the Jialan monarch, Princess Kitamura, was a true immortal emperor. Her father was the ruler of the Hokage Sengoku kingdom. Wanting her to follow the daughter of the Jialan monarch? A Jialan monarch would at most be at the immortal emperor realm. Jialan Mingyue started. After that, she smiled. It's fine. Since this is the case, you guys can go ahead. Many thanks. Mississippi Qin Wenyin and Princess Kitamura walked past them. After they left, the smile on Jialan Mingyue's face instantly vanished. Her expression turned somewhat cold. Find an excuse to capture them and bring them to the city lord's manor. Jialan Mingyue's lips curled up in a devilish smile. In this Wind Thunder City, this was the first time she recruited someone and she was actually rejected. She refused a toast. Miss, that woman's cultivation base isn't low. The female immortal king at the side reminded. Jialan Mingyue frowned. You guys have a good reason to send people here. Even if her cultivation base is higher than you guys, how can an unaffiliated cultivator dare to resist? The female immortal king was helpless, silently cursing Jialan Mingyue in her heart. Seems like she was spoiled by the Jialan monarch. However, she still brought her group of people away. Just like what Jialan Mingyue has said, in this lifelong realm, how would unaffiliated cultivators dare to easily oppose the subordinates of the realm lord? Even if they were only the city lord of a city, above them were monarchs, palace lords, and above palace lords were the realm lord. They were all subordinates of the realm lord. Even for those major clans and sects in the lifelong realm, they wouldn't dare to antagonize the subordinates of the realm lord. Naturally, for the various clans and sects in the supreme ancient immortal realms, many of their disciples would be sent to the subordinates of the realm lord. Unaffiliated cultivators had the lowest status, and it was also the hardest for them to obtain cultivation resources. Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyin were taking a stroll in the city. At this moment, Princess Kitamura frowned. We are in trouble. From her words, it seems that the status of unaffiliated cultivators is very low. Qin Wenyin said. In just an instant, a group of experts flew over. A female immortal king in black coldly spoke. The two of you, stop right there. Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyin turned as cold intent radiated from them. This was especially so for Princess Kitamura. A powerful wave of emperor's might gushed forth, causing the female immortal king in black to freeze in the air. Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. For you? That female immortal king questioned. Although she could sense the emperor's might, she actually didn't flee. Does this have anything to do with you? Qin Wendian frowned as he asked. His tone turned cold as well. Before this, he was already very polite. He didn't expect that this female immortal king actually wanted to capture him. Wasn't this a little too tyrannical? Of course it has something to do with me. A cold voice drifted over. It was none other than Jialan Mingyue leading a group of people here. She icily stared at Bai Mingyu Huang as she spoke. An unaffiliated immortal emperor actually appeared in Wind Thunder City. I suspect that you guys are bandits and have the duty to bring you all to the monarch manor for questioning. Come with us. Bandits? Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyin were both puzzled because they had no idea what rules existed in the supreme ancient immortal realms. These people clearly knew that Princess Kitamura was an immortal emperor, but they didn't show any fear at all. It was like they had a reason to do so. The commotion here attracted many people over. All of them turned their gazes to Princess Kitamura. What a beautiful woman! Was there really such a beautiful female immortal emperor who was a bandit? A terrifying coldness radiated from Princess Kitamura. Her cold eyes flashed with killing intent. This scene caused the expressions of everyone to change. Was this woman crazy? She actually wanted to kill people from the City Lord Manor in Wind Thunder City? Could it be that she didn't know the consequences of her actions? Jialan Mingyue's expression drastically changed. Clearly, she was extremely surprised. She took out a crystal ball and a resplendent light radiated from it, imprinting the figures of Princess Kitamura and Qin Wendian within. Jialan Mingyue directly spoke into the crystal ball. "Father, these two people want to kill me." Chapter 1538. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed as he stared at this scene in bewilderment. He then turned to the crystal ball. The people of the supreme ancient immortal realms could communicate with each other through this crystal ball? A strange light flashed in Princess Kitamura's eyes. Qin Wendian transmitted his voice to her. "Yu Huang, don't be impulsive. This supreme ancient immortal realms is very strange. Our appearances might have been imprinted into the crystal ball. Also, from their attitude, it seems like they are certain that we wouldn't dare to act against them. There should be some sort of restriction. Let's make things clear first. The supreme ancient immortal realms was the strongest immortal realms among the 33 heavenly realms. They basically knew nothing about this place and couldn't help but to be more cautious." Jialan Mingyue inclined her head and stared at the two of them, her eyes filled with wariness as well as coldness. Although the possibility of these two daring to act against her was very low, it was best that they didn't meet a madman. If they died in their hands, it would be meaningless even if her father killed them. Seeing that Princess Kitamura and Qin Wendian didn't say anything and seemed to be contemplating, Jialan Mingyue continued, "As unaffiliated cultivators, you guys suddenly appeared in my Wind Thunder City and even have the Immortal Emperor cultivation base. I have no choice but to be cautious and bring you guys back for questioning. If it's proven that you guys are innocent, I won't make things difficult for you. Miss." One of Jialan Mingyue's protectors transmitted his voice over. "Immortal emperors, even if they are unaffiliated cultivators, it's best if we don't offend them." Jialan Mingyue's protectors weren't like Princess Kitamura and Qin Wendian. They didn't know anything. An immortal emperor was an immortal emperor after all. Their statuses were extraordinary. Jialan Mingyue used such a method to threaten an immortal emperor. Although it seemed that she was already being polite, it was still extremely inappropriate. She didn't have the authority to do so. If she angered an immortal emperor, he could completely disregard her status as the city lord. However, Jialan Mingyue couldn't swallow this anger. It was one thing if she merely rejected her. But this woman actually revealed killing intent towards her. In that case, this matter wouldn't end peacefully. She had to calm this woman down. When her father arrived, everything would be resolved. "All right, I'll go with you." Princess Kitamura softly spoke. Her expression was as cold as ever. If they were in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, how could she endure such humiliation? But just like what Qin Wendian has said, they knew nothing about the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. They had to understand the situation first before making any plans. This time, it was everyone's turn to be surprised. This immortal emperor was actually so easy to talk to? Even Jialan Mingyue was stunned. Jialan Mingyue's lips curled up into a playful smile. After that, she smiled. "Fine, you guys follow me to the City Lord Manor first. I will naturally entertain the two of you." "Yu Huang, I feel that this woman is delaying for time. Are you sure you want to go?" Qin Wendian transmitted his voice to Princess Kitamura. "If there's any danger, just capture her directly." Princess Kitamura replied. Qin Wendian nodded and didn't try to persuade her. The two of them came to a tacit understanding and followed after Jialan Mingyue. At the same time, they surveyed this city. This city was extremely flourishing. Although there was only Jialan Mingyue who was an immortal king here, it was already comparable to the major cities in their Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. In addition, there were many transaction centers with dazzling treasures. However, as soon as they arrived at the city lord's manor, a terrifying aura swept over. A group of cultivators descended, like a powerful army. Princess Kitamura's expression changed. She transmitted her voice to Qin Wenyin. There are 3 immortal emperors. One of them is a mid-stage immortal emperor, 2 initial-stage immortal emperors, and the rest are all immortal kings. Qin Wenyan's eyes gleamed with light. Was the strength of the supreme ancient immortal realms really as strong as the crazy old freak said? Were there so many people who could trample them to death? Before this, he thought that the crazy old freak was just scaring him. Even in the supreme ancient immortal realms, immortal emperors could be considered characters of a region. He didn't expect that he would encounter such a situation the moment he arrived here. In truth, his guess wasn't wrong. Although he encountered 3 immortal emperors the moment he arrived, in truth, the mid-stage immortal emperor was already the ruler of a vast region. His status was extraordinary and he governed many cities and territories. His subordinates were as many as the clouds. The mid-stage immortal king was none other than Jialan Mingyue's father, the Jialan monarch. Upon learning that Jialan Mingyue was in danger, he instantly activated the teleportation array and appeared in the city lord manor of Wind Thunder City. Hence, Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyin could be said to have delivered themselves to his doorstep. We pay our respects to the monarch. The people around Jialan Mingyue bowed. However, the Jialan monarch was surveying Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin was merely an immortal foundation character. He naturally wouldn't care about him. As for Princess Kitamura, she was actually a beautiful immortal emperor. This caused his imposing eyes to gleam with a bright light. Mingyue, what's going on? The Jialan monarch asked. Father, these 2 are unaffiliated cultivators. I want to investigate them and see if they are bandits or not. Father, these 2 people don't seem to know anything. I asked them to come with me and they actually agreed. Also, that woman revealed killing intent towards me earlier. Suddenly Mingyu's voice rang out. Father, these 2 people seem to know nothing. Senior, me and senior sister just arrived here. We are definitely not bandits. Qin Wenyin spoke. At the same time, he and Princess Kitamura were already prepared to act at any moment. If things went wrong, they would instantly capture Jialan Mingyue. Senior sister? In that case, you 2 aren't unaffiliated cultivators but have a master instead? Jialan Mingyue asked. A master is a hermit. The 2 of us have always been cultivating in the wilderness and don't have a master. It's just that we just came out of seclusion. If we have offended Miss in any way, please don't take offense. Qin Wenyin spoke. I wonder which esteemed master is able to nurture such characters? The Jialan monarch stared at Princess Kitamura as he asked. If what Qin Wenyin said was true, the master of an immortal emperor wasn't a simple character. My master doesn't allow us to reveal his name. Qin Wenyin bowed. So it was a misunderstanding. It's just that your actions earlier truly frightened my daughter. Also, right now, there are many bandits running amok in the Lifefire Palace. The Lifefire Empyrean has given strict orders to investigate. If the 2 of you don't mind, can you come to my residence as guests for a few days? The Jialan monarch spoke. Lifefire Palace? Qin Wenyin silently memorized this name. Princess Kitamura frowned. Qin Wenyin spoke. Since Senior has invited us, we wouldn't dare to refuse. Senior sister, let's follow Senior there. Princess Kitamura glanced at Qin Wenyin. After that, Qin Wenyin transmitted his voice. Yuhuang, beauty is always an advantage. This Jialan monarch's gaze when he looks at you is different. He definitely wouldn't do anything to you. There's no need to clash head-on with him. Upon hearing Qin Wenyan's words, Princess Kitamura coldly glared at him. However, she also knew that Qin Wenyin had no other choice. They were completely unfamiliar with the supreme ancient immortal realms and the enemy's formation clearly suppressed them. Could it be that they really had to risk their lives? Even if they fled, they might not be able to escape. Hence, they might as well not fall out with the enemy. This place is the city lord manor of my daughter. There's a teleportation array leading to my Jialan Emperor Palace. Please, The Jialan monarch was extremely polite, but his gaze was only focused on Princess Kitamura. Why would he care about Qin Wenyin? Jialan Mingyue's lips twitched. How could she not understand what sort of character her father was? However, it was fine as long as he could help her vent her anger. Father, I haven't returned for a period of time. I will accompany you. Jialan Mingyue spoke. Sure, let's go together. The Jialan monarch nodded. The group of them flew towards the teleportation array. Jialan Mingyue came to the side of Qin Wenyin and asked, "The difference in your cultivation bases seems to be too great. I'm ashamed to say this. My talent is far inferior to senior sister." Qin Wenyin bitterly smiled and shook his head. Your senior sister is not only talented, she is also very beautiful. Do you like her? Jialan Mingyue joked, appearing extremely amicable. Her attitude from before was completely different, but this caused Qin Wenyin to be even more wary. The speed at which her attitude changed was truly fast. How can I be worthy of senior sister? Qin Wenyin laughed. He then asked, Miss Jialan, the two of us have just arrived and have no idea about the rules here. Please forgive us if we have offended you. Also, where is this Li-Fire Palace? Jialan Mingyue stared at Qin Wenyin with some bewilderment. This fellow was extremely handsome and his eyes gleamed with light, extremely mesmerizing. Because of his unique astral souls, the current Qin Wenyin was even more attractive compared to the past. You really don't know? Jialan Mingyue asked. Qin Wenyin nodded. The Lifelong Realm. The Lifelong Realm Lord governs an entire world region. This Lifelong Realm is then divided into 9 world palaces. The Li-Fire Palace is one of the world palaces and is governed by the Li-Fire Empyrean. As for my father, he is one of the 9 monarchs under the Li-Fire Empyrean. This Wind Thunder city I'm in is merely one of the many cities under my father's jurisdiction. Jialan Mingyue smiled. Lifelong Realm. Qin Wenyan's eyes gleamed with sharpness. The name, Lifelong Realm, caused him to involuntarily think of the Heavenly Talisman Realm. The Lifelong Realm, the Lifelong Realm Lord, a world region. The 9 monarchs have the same cultivation base as senior? In that case, aren't the 9 world palace lords all peak stage immortal emperors? Qin Wenyin pretended to be shocked. Aren't you underestimating the world palace lords and monarchs a little too much? The 9 monarchs are usually at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm or at the mid stage of the immortal emperor realm. My father is one of them. As for the 9 world palace lords, they are all above the immortal emperor realm and below the world overlord realm. They can be considered half-step world overlords. Naturally, they might also be supreme peak stage immortal emperors. Jialan Mingyue coldly laughed. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled. No wonder Jialan Mingyue didn't fear Princess Kitamura at all despite knowing that she was an immortal emperor. If it was like what Jialan Mingyue said, the power represented by a monarch was equivalent to a peak power in the Azure Mystic Immortal realms. The 9 monarchs under the Jialan monarch were equivalent to 9 peak powers, and the territories they controlled were also extremely vast. The Wind Thunder City was merely a city the Jialan monarch gave to his daughter to play around in. As for the World Palace lords Jialan Mingyue spoke of, Qin Wenyin thought of ancient emperors. For the 9 world palaces, leaving aside the subordinates of the World Palace lords, just the 81 monarchs were sufficient to sweep through the Azure Mystic Immortal realms. What do you mean by bandits? Qin Wenyin suppressed the shock in his heart as he asked. The Lifelong Realm is governed by the Lifelong Realm Lord and his subordinates. There are 9 world palaces and 81 monarchs, controlling many resources in the Lifelong Realm. There are some audacious fellows who would steal or even plunder resources from the Lifelong Realm Lord. These fellows are known as bandits and are wanted by the Lifelong Realm Lord. Jialan Mingyue cast a deep glance at Qin Wenyin, causing Qin Wenyin to sigh silently. Before this, Jialan Mingyue had pinned a big hat on him. Chapter 1539. The Jialan Emperor Palace was a majestic place with as many experts as the clouds. After the Jialan monarch brought Qin Wendian and Princess Kitamura here, he didn't really go to interrogate them about the matter of the bandits. Instead, he politely arranged a banquet to welcome them. During the banquet, Qin Wendian even saw Jialan Mingyue's mother. She was an extremely beautiful woman who seemed to be around 30 years of age and was actually an immortal emperor as well. Her every frown and smile was extremely alluring, but when she looked at Princess Kitamura, there was a deep meaning in her eyes. Qin Wentian's intuition told him that she was on guard against Princess Kitamura. Princess Kitamura, regardless of your demeanor or cultivation base, you are both extraordinary. After some time, the 9 monarchs will head to the Li-Fire Palace together. At that time, I will bring you along and the Li-Fire Empyrean would surely admire you. I would like to request the Li-Fire Empyrean to give you the title of my protector. In that case, you wouldn't need to be an unaffiliated cultivator and would be able to share cultivation resources with me every year. The Jialan monarch spoke to Princess Kitamura, as though he had completely forgotten about the matter of the bandits. He wanted to rope in Princess Kitamura. An immortal emperor expert, and such a beautiful one at that, no one would reject her. Although Princess Kitamura had a grudge with his daughter, they didn't really act against each other. As long as Princess Kitamura became his woman, he could directly ignore it. As for Qin Wendian, the Jialan monarch didn't even glance at him during the banquet. Princess Kitamura's eyelashes fluttered. She was still as cold as before. She calmly spoke, "Many thanks for the monarch's kind intentions. It's just that I just left the mountain and still wish to roam around. Yu Huang, becoming my protector won't restrict you. At that time, I will give you the greatest freedom to do whatever you want." The Jialan monarch waved his hands. Since he wanted to rope in Princess Kitamura, how could he allow her to escape from his grasp? As one of the 9 monarchs, the Jialan monarch naturally wasn't a simple character. Qin Wendian lowered his head and drank. He could tell that if they refused, the other party would not let them go. Maybe they would become bandits. "Senior sister, since the Li-Fire Empyrean regards you so highly, why don't you follow him to the Li-Fire Palace? At that time, let the Li-Fire Empyrean sincerely request you to be a protector." Qin Wendian interjected. The Jialan monarch laughed when he heard this as he calmly glanced at Qin Wendian. "But Emperor, the two of us still don't know much about the outside world. Is the status of individual cultivators really that low?" Qin Wendian asked. "The lifelong realm is a place governed by the Realm Lord. All the cultivation resources in the lifelong realm belong to the Realm Lord and are managed by his subordinates. Hence, in this place, the Realm Lord has absolute control. Regardless of clans or sects, they all have to rely on the Realm Lord and become his subordinates. Only then would they be able to obtain some authority. As for unaffiliated cultivators, there are no lack of such willful people." The Jialan monarch laughed. He didn't say anything, but it was clear that he had contempt for unaffiliated cultivators. Qin Wendian also understood many things from Jialan Mingyue. He could deeply sense how powerful the lifelong Realm Lord's control over this place was. It was completely different compared to the peak powers in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Naturally, this might have something to do with cultivation resources. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms had very little cultivation resources, but from the words of the Jialan monarch and his daughter, it was clear that they valued cultivation resources greatly. "Yu Huang, what do you think?" The Jialan monarch smiled as he asked. "Let me consider it a little more. However, at that time, I can follow the Jialan monarch to pay my respects to the Li-Fire Empyrean." Princess Kitamura also wanted to see what sort of character the 9 palace lords of the lifelong realm were. Were they really the legendary ancient emperors of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? After learning of how strong the lifelong realm was, Princess Kitamura also sighed ruefully in her heart. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms were simply too weak when compared to the supreme ancient immortal realms. After the banquet ended, the Jialan monarch told Jialan Mingyue to bring Princess Kitamura and Qin Wendian around the Emperor City. This Emperor City was named after the Jialan monarch. Not only so, if someone else ascended to the throne of the Jialan monarch one day, this Emperor City would change its name to reflect the Jialan monarch's status. The Emperor City was very vast. Also, The buildings and ground were all constructed from extraordinary materials. Qin Wenyan intentionally tried, but given his current cultivation base, he couldn't even leave a mark on the ground. From this, one could very well imagine how sturdy the emperor's city was. According to Jialan Mingyue, many powerful capital cities in the supreme ancient immortal realms were all constructed from immortal-grade meteors, king-grade meteors, and emperor-grade meteors. The stronger the capital city, the more valuable the materials used to construct it would be. In fact, the entire city was like a terrifying cultivation formation, filled with law energy. The palaces of some major characters were all constructed from formations and were extremely suitable for cultivation. Ordinary people basically had no qualifications to stay in the emperor city. Each and every building was extremely expensive. For outsiders, they could only spend an exorbitant amount of money to stay in inns or rent a place. Hence, in this emperor city, immortal kings could be seen everywhere with a single glance. Even for those with weak cultivation bases, their elders would definitely be extremely powerful. And it was precisely because of this that there were many more occupations in the supreme ancient immortal realms. For example, there were construction grandmasters that were proficient in formations. Qin Wenyan and Princess Kitamura strolled around the city. All of them used immortal-grade meteors and king-grade meteors as currency. As for them, they were pitifully poor. Before this, when they saw Jialan Mingyue using her messaging crystal, they could only look at it. They couldn't afford it. When he saw the smile that was not a smile in Jialan Mingyue's eyes, Qin Wenyan felt that he was extremely embarrassed. At this moment, on an elegant lake, there were many pleasure boats and dragon boats. There were also pavilions in the middle of the lake where beauties were dancing. These beauties were all dressed in sexy clothes and were extremely beautiful. The night sky was brightly lit and people were chatting and laughing amidst the music. Although Princess Kitamura had an immortal emperor cultivation base, she had never seen such a flourishing city before. She couldn't help but to sigh in her heart. "Yuang, do you feel like a frog at the bottom of a well?" Qin Wenyan stood beside Princess Kitamura. The two of them exuded magnificence through the generations, causing all the tourists to glance over in admiration. In fact, there was even a suave young master who toasted them with a smile. "The two of you are extraordinary, truly a perfect match." As he spoke, the pleasure boat passed by them. Qin Wenyan smiled at Princess Kitamura, only to see Princess Kitamura rolling her eyes at Qin Wenyan. "It's about time for me to toss aside my past understanding." Princess Kitamura transmitted her voice over and sighed. "Cultivate well. If your cultivation base improves and breaks through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, this flourishing emperor city might be named after you." Qin Wenyan stood with his hands behind his back. His white robes fluttered in the wind, exuding a carefree aura. "Do you really want me to follow the Jialan monarch?" Princess Kitamura frowned as she coldly stared at Qin Wenyan. The Jialan monarch is one of the 9 monarchs and isn't a mediocre character. Even if he is interested in you, he wouldn't do anything to you. Given your beauty, no matter where you go, there would be people who would have thoughts about you. This is very normal. Since we just arrived in the supreme ancient immortal realms, you can borrow the Jialan monarch's help to get acquainted with the Li-Fire Empyrean. As for what happens in the future, it would depend on your own capabilities. Qin Wenyan stared at the lake ahead as he calmly spoke. How could he not hope that Princess Kitamura would stay far away from the Jialan monarch? However, this was the territory of the Jialan monarch. How could it be so easy for her to leave? "Are you praising me?" Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. "Also, don't forget that before this, Jialan Mingyue asked the Jialan monarch for you. Although she was very polite during the banquet, you have already seen what sort of character she is. She is an unruly young miss who can change her attitude in the blink of an eye. If you were to land in her hands, don't worry about it. After we leave the Emperor City, do you think an initial stage immortal king would be a threat to me? In addition, since the Jialan monarch wants to curry favor with you, she wouldn't go too overboard, right?" Qin Wenyan calmly spoke. Princess Kitamura glanced at Qin Wenyan in bewilderment. Before this, She was somewhat cold because Qin Wendian wanted her to borrow the Jialan monarch's power. If Qin Wendian also benefited from this, she would definitely suspect Qin Wentian's intentions. However, Qin Wendian was truly thinking for her sake. That crazy old freak wants me to protect you. Princess Kitamura suddenly spoke. Qin Wendian glanced at her in bewilderment as a smile that was not a smile appeared on his face. Princess Kitamura felt a little uneasy being stared at by him. She coldly asked, "What are you looking at? Before this, didn't you say that we will go our separate ways?" I suddenly recalled the words of that crazy old freak. "Yuang, don't tell me you have fallen for me?" Qin Wendian joked. "Stop daydreaming." Princess Kitamura disdainfully glanced at Qin Wendian. However, Qin Wendian merely laughed uproariously. Several days later, just like what Princess Kitamura and Qin Wendian expected, Jialan Mingyue wanted to bring Qin Wendian to Wind Thunder City while the Jialan monarch told Princess Kitamura to stay in the Emperor City. Qin Wendian had long made up his mind. He followed Jialan Mingyue to Wind Thunder City. In the City Lord Manor of Wind Thunder City, Jialan Mingyue brought Qin Wendian into her chambers. She lay down on a soft chair, her alluring figure laid out horizontally as she stared at Qin Wendian with a seductive look in her eyes. She smiled. "Do you feel very reluctant to leave your senior sister?" At this moment, Jialan Mingyue no longer had the friendliness she had before. "I've been together with my senior sister for so many years, I naturally feel some reluctance." Qin Wendian replied. "Do you think your senior sister is more beautiful or me?" Jialan Mingyue sweetly spoke. "Each has their own merits, it's not easy to compare." Qin Wendian calmly replied, but he was coldly laughing in his heart. Although this Jialan Mingyue was a beauty, if she wanted to compare herself to Princess Kitamura, she would truly have no self-awareness. "This Miss legs are a little tired, come and help me massage them." Jialan Mingyue stretched out her jade-like legs, exuding an alluring aura. "Miss Jialan, if you do this, your reputation would be tarnished." Qin Wendian shook his head. "Even I don't mind. What are you going to mind? Could it be that you despise this miss?" Jialan Mingyue's gaze was filled with killing intent. She couldn't help but admit that this Qin Wendian was getting more and more handsome the more she looked at him. If he could serve her well, she was willing to give Qin Wendian another chance. "I don't dare." Qin Wendian shook his head again. "Fine, you can leave now." Jialan Mingyue smiled sweetly. She casually waved her hand. "In the future, I will arrange a good job for you." "Since this is the case, many thanks, miss." Qin Wendian bade farewell. After he turned around, his bright eyes gleamed with a terrifying light. After Qin Wendian left, Jialan Mingyue's expression instantly turned heavy. She directly smashed the chair beside her into dust as killing intent flashed in her eyes. This miss gave him a chance, but he doesn't know how to cherish it. Does he really think that his senior sister can protect him just because my father regards her highly? Father is too much, his lust never changes. Could it be that he wants to take a concubine again? "Miss, how should we deal with him?" A serving girl at the side asked. "Make the arrangements. Send him to the meteorite mine." Jialan Mingyue coldly spoke, causing the hearts of the people at the side to tremble. Seems like Qin Wendian would die for sure. Chapter 1540. In the territory governed by the Jialan monarch, there were many meteorite mines that were under his protection. He was also responsible for excavating the cultivation resources within. At this moment, in one of the mines, there was an army stationed outside. They surrounded the entire area, making it so tight that not even a drop of water could pass through. In one of the passageways, Qin Wendian arrived. Other than him, there were two other immortal kings who brought him here as well as an immortal foundation maiden. Qin Wendian, the entrance to the mine is right ahead. You are lacking in cultivation resources and can use this opportunity to earn more. Young Miss is giving you a chance, you better cherish it well. The immortal king who brought Qin Wendian here smiled, his eyes gleaming with a deep meaning. In that case, please thank young Miss on my behalf. Qin Wendian smiled and nodded, but a cold light flickered in his eyes. How could he not know that the immortal king had ill intentions? On the way here, he could even flee, but he didn't do so, because he truly wanted to take a look at the meteorite mine the immortal king spoke of. The two of you can enter now. Not far away, another immortal king communicated with the guards here and called out to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan and the Immortal Foundation maiden then walked over with a few guards leading them towards a mountain range ahead. Qin Wenyan's immortal sense gushed forth. He felt a slight shock in his heart when he saw the guards here. There were many immortal kings here. One could see how important this mine was. The mine was opened last year. Hence, after you guys enter, it will only open again after 9 years. At that time, if you guys are still alive, you can come out together with the people inside. The guard instructed Qin Wenyan and the young woman before leading them into a cave in the mountain range. As they walked deeper, they finally arrived at a spatial gate. Go on in. The guard spoke. Qin Wenyan and the Immortal Foundation maiden entered together. In an instant, an intense spatial energy enveloped the two of them as they soared through the air. When they appeared again, they were also exiting through a spatial gate. Qin Wenyan's gaze instantly froze as he stared in shock at the scene before him. Is this the mineral vein? Qin Wenyan looked down. It was as if he had come to another continent. It was a vast and endless land with mountains rising and falling. Moreover, there was a psychedelic atmosphere. The woman beside him was named Yang Yun, and her cultivation base was at the 8th level of Immortal Foundation. She stared at the gleaming eyes of Qin Wenyan and involuntarily spoke, Are you stupid? Do you really not know that Jialan Mingyue sent you here to die? She couldn't imagine why Qin Wenyan was still so excited. Moreover, the conversation he had with the Immortal King who escorted them along the way was also very strange. He was actually very polite. However, Qin Wenyan was extraordinary in both appearance and temperament. Why did he look so stupid? Yun, it's true that I know nothing about the external world. What's going on with this meteorite mine? Qin Wenyan asked. Yang Yun was dumbfounded. She stared ahead and replied, This is the first time I came to a meteorite mine, but I've long heard that in the vast supreme ancient immortal realms, there are many wondrous lands that can produce cultivation resources. However, the cultivation resources in the supreme ancient immortal realms are limited. Hence, those Empyreans would excavate the resources from the void around the immortal realms. In the surroundings of our immortal realms, other than the countless particle worlds, there would also be some wondrous lands. For example, there are stars that can produce immortal stones. On those stars, there would be unique mountain ranges that can produce all sorts of immortal stones. In that case, this place should be outside the supreme ancient immortal realms? Qin Wenyan asked. We came here through a spatial gate. We should be outside the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the immortal realms, those major characters established their own powers, controlling incomparably powerful armies. What are they doing this for? Isn't it all for these cultivation resources? Discovering, conquering, plundering, controlling, excavating. This meteorite mine should be able to produce illusion-type immortal stones. Naturally, there might also be king-grade and emperor-grade immortal stones. As for the more valuable items, that would have to depend on luck. If those major characters discovered this place, why didn't they directly move the entire mine away? Qin Wenyan didn't understand. Although immortal emperors didn't have such capabilities, he believed that the hegemonic characters of the supreme ancient immortal realms would definitely have such capabilities. Mines are born from borrowing the power of the heavens and earth. In addition, they are able to produce endless amounts of cultivation resources. The more time passes, the more precious items there would be. If they directly destroyed it and took it away, it would be a one-time use item. It can produce immortal stones by itself. Qin Wenyan's eyes gleamed with sharpness. No wonder the emperor city that the Jialan monarch was in was constructed from precious resources. The people of the supreme ancient immortal realms were powerful, hence, they had the ability to discover and excavate cultivation resources. As for the people of the azure mystic immortal realms, they basically didn't dare to imagine that. Just this spatial gate that could traverse vast distances wasn't something an immortal emperor could create. Why you still not going down? A cold voice drifted over. Qin Wenyin inclined his head, only to see a group of guards clad in armor, pointing their long spears at them. Before this, he actually didn't notice that there were actually experts guarding the airspace above the mine. Let's go. Yang Yun pulled Qin Wentian's arm and moved forward, moving towards the mine. Before the spatial gate opens, anyone who leaves the mine will be killed without mercy. A cold voice rang out. Yang Yun transmitted her voice to Qin Wenyin. Now you should understand that you are here to die, right? There are many people in the mine. There are criminals from the territories governed by the Jialan monarch, slaves from the various clans and sects, as well as people who are at their wits' end and lack cultivation resources. These people are all criminals. For the sake of immortal stones, they would kill each other and plunder. By doing so, they would be able to obtain more than 90% of the resources. Other than these people being extremely dangerous, the mine itself can also kill people. For Immortal Foundation experts like us, there's only a path of death for us. Have you offended Jialan Mingyue? Qin Wendian asked. I'm the daughter of the previous city lord of Wind Thunder City. Because my father was unhappy with Jialan Mingyue who just broke through to the Immortal King realm, he rebutted her and my entire family was sent to the various mines. Yang Yun's voice was cold to the extreme. Qin Wendian cast a deep glance at Yang Yun. After that, he bitterly smiled and shook his head. Jialan Mingyue was treating him like a criminal. Let's hope we can walk out of here alive. Yang Yun sighed. Let me protect you. Qin Wendian smiled. Yang Yun started. She stared at Qin Wendian. You? Protect me? Emichim. Qin Wendian nodded. Yang Yun smiled and walked forward. Okay, I will wait for you to grow stronger in the future. Protect me. Qin Wendian bitterly smiled and shook his head, following after her. Not long later, they saw a group of experts mining ahead, using law energy to break apart the mountain range. The foundation of this mine was extremely sturdy. Even for Immortal Foundation experts, their speed of mining wouldn't be that fast. At this moment, a gaze turned over. The eyes of that person were as sharp as knives, as a cold smile appeared on his face. Let's go. Yang Yun transmitted her voice to Qin Wenyin. Stop there. That person coldly called out. Yang Yun froze, only to see that person speaking. The two of you, come over and mine together. His cultivation base is higher than mine. He intentionally concealed it earlier. He's a ruthless character and might be at the Immortal King realm. Yang Yun transmitted her voice to Qin Wenyin. Don't worry. Qin Wenyin replied. He actually really went ahead to mine, punching out with his devil fists. Not long after, he saw a sparkling and translucent illusory immortal stone. Qin Wendian kept it and continued to mine. Yang Yun helplessly joined in as well. This mining lasted for several months and they obtained quite a lot of immortal stones. At this moment, an illusionary realm appeared, enveloping everyone within. Occasionally, they would see illusions. A king-grade immortal stone has been excavated. That fierce-looking immortal king who had been cultivating at the sides suddenly opened his eyes. His immortal sense spread out, causing many illusions to appear within his immortal sense, trying to confuse them. But very swiftly, the illusions vanished as well. Everyone had a strange look in their eyes as they stared at the immortal king. Who took it? The fierce-looking immortal king stood up and asked in a cold tone. Everyone exchanged mutual glances. That fierce-looking immortal king swept his gaze over them as he spoke again. Hand over all the interspatial rings. Senior, can you leave some for us? If we don't manage to excavate enough, we will have to continue mining for the next 10 years. Someone spoke. That immortal king released a terrifying aura as his law domain transformed into a fearsome saber domain, directly slashing that immortal king into pieces. The expressions of everyone instantly turned pale. That immortal king's eyes were as sharp as blades as he pointed to Yang Yun. Little beauty, go and collect his interspatial ring. Yang Yun's body trembled. That immortal king laughed uproariously when he saw the fear on her face. "Don't worry, beauty. I won't kill you. Naturally, you have to serve me well." Yang Yun bit her lips. Her countenance was as pale as paper. Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. "The things you want are with me. Amichem?" That immortal king instantly stared at Qin Wenyan as a malevolent smile appeared on his face. However, Qin Wentian's eyes abruptly changed. In an instant, a pitch-black devilish light flashed, resembling two bolts of lightning. In just an instant, that immortal king howled in pain before he screamed in agony. "Destroy!" A formless, terrifying aura gushed forth from Qin Wendian, causing everyone to feel fear in their souls. With a thud, that immortal king collapsed to the ground. There wasn't even a single wound on his body. Everyone stared at Qin Wenyan as shock appeared on their faces. Under their gazes, Qin Wenyan walked up and took the interspatial ring from the young man. He glanced at the items inside and noticed that there were quite a few immortal stones inside. But to him, it was still far from enough. "Yun, I might need to enter closed-door seclusion for a period of time. I'll have some time to search for more immortal stones. Do you want to come with me?" Qin Wendian stared at Yang Yun'er, who was still in a daze. Although he could still kill immortal kings by relying on his soul energy, he still felt extremely unhappy. He was preparing to recover his cultivation base to the immortal king realm before exiting this place. If he encountered any trouble, he would be able to deal with it. Chapter 1541. Yang Yun stared dumbfoundedly at Qin Wenyan. This fellow was so strong? Upon hearing Qin Wentian's question, she transmitted her voice over. "Miners aren't allowed to cultivate. As for those who use the immortal stones they excavate for cultivation, it's absolutely forbidden. If it's discovered, the higher-ups will immediately deal with you. That's simple. Just follow me." Qin Wendian laughed. His silhouette flickered as he departed. Yang Yun stared at his back and followed after him. When she thought of Qin Wenyan saying that he would protect her, a radiant smile involuntarily appeared on her face. Qin Wenyan still thought that he was joking. There were indeed many miners in this mine, and there were also quite a number of immortal kings. Qin Wenyan and his group soon encountered another group of people. They didn't waste any words and immediately transformed their souls into soul bodies, directly rushing towards the two immortal kings. There were very few people proficient in soul energy. Even in the supreme ancient immortal realms, there weren't many of them. The expressions of the two immortal kings drastically changed. Terrifying law domains erupted forth, but the formless souls directly rushed into the bodies of the two immortal kings. "Destroy his physical body," one of them roared. Terrifying flames instantly engulfed Qin Wentian's body. Yang Yun turned pale when she saw this scene. Was Qin Wenyan crazy? Qin Wenyan naturally wasn't crazy. Very swiftly, the two souls fused back into one and returned to his destroyed body. A powerful life force gushed forth as his body recovered at a shocking speed, causing the two immortal kings to be stunned speechless. Where did this monster come from? His body seemed to be indestructible. If they wanted to kill him, they could only destroy his soul. But sadly, his soul was so strong that they basically couldn't destroy it. This was simply a freak. Also, at this moment, their souls still contained remnants of Qin Wentian's soul energy. It felt like Qin Wenyan could attack them at any moment. "I won't kill you guys, and I don't want the immortal stones in your bodies. You guys can continue to mine here. I will find a place to cultivate. While you guys are mining, help me guard the area and don't allow anyone to disturb my cultivation. If not, don't blame me for being impolite." Qin Wenyan said coldly. He didn't care if the other party agreed or not. He looked at Yun and said, "Yun, it doesn't matter if you want to mine or cultivate with me. I'll go in first." As he spoke, he directly walked towards the depths of the mine. The two immortal kings had ashen and pale expressions as they felt a threat to their souls. Their countenances twitched. "What was this? What are you looking at? Continue mining." One of the immortal kings couldn't help but roar when he saw the people in the surroundings staring at them. The crowd instantly turned and continued digging. Yang Yun-er's beautiful eyes flashed. After a moment of contemplation, she followed behind Qin Wenyin and entered the depths of the mine. Qin Wenyin took out the king-grade immortal stone that he had obtained previously. An illusion rule domain appeared around him, producing many illusions. He closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged. He really began to cultivate in this mine. To Qin Wenyin, who had long stepped into the peak stage of the immortal king realm, there naturally wouldn't be any obstructions in his cultivation. He broke through to the next level without any obstructions. 5 years later, Qin Wenyin broke through to the immortal king realm. His perception shot up to the 9 heavenly layers, and he formed a connection with a constellation from the 8th heavenly layer. Although his perception was extremely powerful, it wasn't much stronger compared to when he was at his peak back then. He still couldn't break through the restrictions of the 9th heavenly layer. However, right now, all 7 of his astral souls were from the 8th heavenly layer. This was simply terrifying. Powerful astral light cascaded down from the sky, causing a huge commotion. The guards in the air all sensed the astral energy. Their eyes flashed as they stared in the direction where Qin Wenyin was at. After that, they coldly snorted. There was actually someone who dared to cultivate under their noses. Very swiftly, 4 powerful immortal kings appeared outside the mine where Qin Wenyin was at. Their immortal senses swept out as they coldly spoke. "Who is cultivating inside? Scram out now." The miners inside were all trembling with fear. Even the 2 immortal kings who were controlled by Qin Wenyin and Yang Yun-er also came out. Yang Yun-er's countenance turned pale. These were the guards of the mine. These people basically couldn't afford to offend them. They could even kill those who didn't abide by the rules. There was no sound inside, only an illusory realm. Reckless fool. A person directly stepped out. This person was at the mid-stage of the immortal king realm. When he stepped out, the mine trembled as the violent energy caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. He walked into the mine, and with every step he took, the mine seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. He directly entered the illusory realm, and his immortal sense swept out frenziedly, finally seeing the location where Qin Wenyin was at. Qin Wenyin still sat there, calmly glancing at him only to hear the immortal king coldly speaking. "This is an important place. No one is allowed to cultivate. You actually dare to defy orders?" Qin Wenyin closed his eyes and spoke. "You are merely following orders and are responsible for guarding this place. You won't even have a share of the immortal stones dug out. Why is there a need to be so serious? Just get out." "Impudent!" he roared, stepping out as a fearsome might erupted forth. A wave of black flames erupted forth. "Don't put yourself in a difficult position." Qin Wenyan's voice was as cold as ever, his eyes were still closed. "Courting death!" the immortal king roared. A fist of light blasted out as the black flames enveloped it, penetrating through everything. Just at the instant the violent fist slammed into him, a beam of light radiated from Qin Wenyan's body. In just an instant, an incomparably pure and holy light radiated from him. His entire person was shrouded in a layer of holy radiance, and the might of the fist directly dissipated into nothingness, as though it had never appeared before. "I don't wish to offend you. Please inform the people outside not to disturb my cultivation." Qin Wenyin opened his eyes, revealing a pair of terrifying eyes. The immortal king felt a piercing pain in his eyes, causing him to have no way to open them. He let out a low roar, and in just an instant, his entire body was drenched in sweat as his heart pounded violently. When he opened his eyes again, he discovered that Qin Wenyan's eyes were closed again, like he had never opened them before. Thump. His heart pounded. Was this really someone who just broke through to the immortal king realm? He didn't say anything more and turned to leave. After that, he transmitted his voice to the other 3 immortal kings. After that, the 4 of them silently departed as though nothing had happened. This scene caused the eyes of everyone in the surroundings to widen, like they had just seen something unbelievable. Yang Yun-er drew in a deep breath as she cast a deep glance at the immortal king. What kind of monster was that fellow exactly? "Continue mining." The 2 immortal kings calmly spoke, knowing that they couldn't afford to antagonize the person inside. Qin Wenyin didn't come out. After he broke through to the immortal king realm, things wouldn't be as simple as before. He needed to comprehend some of his abilities again. After all, his 7 astral souls had undergone a huge transformation compared to the past. The law domains of the past naturally weren't suitable for him now. Time continued to flow. In the blink of an eye, another 3 years passed. This was already the 9th year since Qin Wenyan entered the mine. Also, after a few more months, a spatial gate would open up and he would be able to leave. During these 3 years, he only broke through a single level. From the initial stage of the Immortal King realm, he broke through to the mid-stage of the Immortal King realm. Just a single step more and he would be able to return to his peak state back then. Today, Qin Wenyan finally kept the immortal stones and walked out of the mine. The 2 immortal kings found even more people to help them with the mining. But because they had always been here, there weren't many people who would disturb them. In addition, these 2 immortal kings weren't weak either. Sometimes, when they encountered others, they wouldn't dare to act recklessly. Qin Wenyan willed. 2 streams of formless energy flowed out from the 2 immortal kings, entering Qin Wenyan's body. Don't worry, I already said that I wouldn't do anything to you two. I only want you two to take care of me while mining. Qin Wenyan smiled when he saw the nervous looks on their faces. Only then did the 2 of them heave a sigh of relief. When they sensed Qin Wenyan's cultivation base, they felt their hearts twitching. This fellow, was he concealing his cultivation base before this? But what was going on when he broke through to the Immortal King realm? In addition, other people would need a very long time to break through, but Qin Wenyan broke through directly. Right now, he was already at the mid-stage of the Immortal King realm. Yun'er, let's go. Qin Wenyan spoke to Yang Yun. MHM, Yang Yun'er nodded. Qin Wenyan pulled her by her arm as their silhouettes flashed, directly soaring through the air. What the hell? The 2 immortal kings mumbled when they saw Qin Wenyan walking away. Indeed. This daddy has cultivated for over 1,000 years, and this is the first time I encountered such a strange thing. The other immortal king spoke in a depressed manner. Are you going to do this? Yang Yun was pulled by Qin Wenyan as they soared through the air, directly ignoring the guards in the air as she spoke in a weak voice. What's there to be afraid of? These people are merely following orders. If they encounter someone they can't deal with, they would naturally close one eye. In any case, there's no need to create trouble. Qin Wenyan didn't mind it as he laughed. What's your cultivation base now? Yang Yun asked in a light voice. Mid-stage Immortal King. Qin Wenyan smiled. Yang Yun was completely dumbfounded. You were concealing your cultivation base earlier? It can be considered so. Qin Wenyan casually replied, not saying anything more. They continued to soar through the air. Sometimes, there would be illusions appearing, blocking their vision. Qin Wenyan also directly passed through them. Does this mine only produce immortal stones? Qin Wenyan asked. Naturally not. There are many types of mines. This mine should be considered one of the more ordinary ones, only producing illusion-type immortal stones. Also, this mine has been excavated for many years. Yang Yun replied. Qin Wenyan nodded lightly and continued forward. All of a sudden, a beam of light shot up into the starry space. Over there, boundless astral light cascaded downwards. Emperor-grade immortal stone. Yang Yun'er's eyes flashed with sharpness. Astral light, a sign of immortal emperors. Is this an emperor-grade immortal stone? Are these immortal stones even more valuable than an immortal king? Qin Wenyan joked. You can say that. Yang Yun seriously nodded. An emperor-grade immortal stone can aid immortal kings in comprehending the immortal emperor realm. It can also generate boundless law energy, allowing one to cultivate and deepen their insights. Naturally, the attribute of the stone must be compatible. If it isn't, you can use it for a transaction. Just nice, I'm penniless now. Jialan Mingyue, you have helped me greatly. Qin Wenyan smiled. Astral light flashed as a spatial gate appeared before Qin Wenyan. Just when Yang Yun was in a daze, Qin Wenyan pulled her into the spatial gate. In the next instant, another spatial gate appeared as Qin Wenyan and Yang Yun directly walked out from it. Qin Wenyan had a spatial-type astral soul that originated from the 8th heavenly layer. When he condensed his astral soul, it was a spatial gate. Chapter 1542. Qin Wenyan and Yang Yun stared ahead. Over there, an ordinary-looking stone started to transform. As the astral light from the constellations cascaded down, the light from it shone brightly as it transformed into a gigantic immortal stone. An illusory illusion frenziedly extended outwards. Such a large immortal stone, it must be priceless. Yang Yun felt shock in her heart. The currency used in the supreme ancient immortal realms was immortal stones of laws. As for the stones here, they were all naturally formed. The gigantic immortal stone in front of her was definitely a peak-grade one. Many immortal kings in the surroundings arrived, their eyes gleaming with sharpness. With such a gigantic high-grade emperor stone, even if they had to hand over 90% of its value, it would still be extremely valuable. In fact, to some criminals, it was sufficient to atone for their crimes, and they might even be able to strike it rich. This Emperor Stone is definitely able to form an illusory formation. In addition, it's an Emperor-ranked formation. If it landed in the hands of a formation Grandmaster, it would simply be the foundation of a supreme illusory formation. Yang Yun sighed. The boundlessly vast space was instantly engulfed by a layer of mist, causing them to sink into it. Qin Wenyan, I can't see clearly anymore. Not only was Yang Yun unable to see, even her immortal sense was affected. She couldn't even see her fingers when she stretched out her hand. But at this moment, she suddenly felt a warmth in her hand. A hand stretched out and pulled her back. After that, she saw a pair of golden eyes staring at her. That pair of eyes was incomparably resplendent, able to see through all illusions. You're right. If we continue to wait for the Emperor Stone to be baptized by the astral light, let alone obtaining it, we might even be trapped inside. Let's take it now. Another spatial gate appeared in front of Qin Wenyan, after which he stepped out and directly appeared in another location. Almost at the same instant, the sound of whistling wind drifted over as a violent aura instantly erupted forth in this space. Qin Wenyan directly ignored everything. With a casual wave of his hand, a spatial screen of light enveloped the Emperor Stone. A spatial thread appeared in Qin Wenyan's hand as the meteorite that was enveloped by the spatial thread was sucked into Qin Wenyan's mouth before he kept it. In an instant, the mist dissipated and the starlight also vanished. Qin Wenyan took a step in the air, instantly bringing Yang Yun away from their original location. Numerous cold gazes suddenly turned towards Qin Wenyan in the air. Cold light shot out as chaotic law energy gushed forth. Qin Wenyan spoke. The monarch stone is already in my hands, it naturally belongs to me. If anyone dares to snatch it, I will kill them without mercy. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left, ignoring all the cultivators. Courting death. Lightning dominion. A thunderous roar rang out as violent violet lightning manifested, enveloping Qin Wenyan and Yang Yun within. Within the lightning domain, terrifying demonic beasts manifested, all of them rushing towards Qin Wenyan. At the same time, the lightning bolts were like apocalyptic calamities, blasting downwards. Qin Wenyan abruptly turned. Golden runes flashed, landing on Yang Yun, enveloping her. Qin Wenyan continued pulling her along as he stepped forward, passing through the lightning domain, allowing the apocalyptic lightning bolts to slam into him, transforming into violet light that circulated around him. However, they weren't able to injure him in the slightest. The countenance of that immortal king changed. The lightning in the air grew even more violent as an illusory face appeared. Lightning blasted down once more, slamming into Qin Wenyan, causing Qin Wenyan to feel his soul trembling. This immortal king's lightning attack actually contained a soul attack. Qin Wenyan stretched out his palm. A moment later, a spatial sword domain appeared around that immortal king as boundless divine swords appeared in the air. Kill. Qin Wenyan clenched his fist as millions of swords penetrated through everything. In just an instant, that immortal king was reduced to ashes. He had no way to resist at all. Let me remind everyone again. Marauders, kill them. Qin Wenyan waved his hand and kept the interspatial ring of that immortal king before departing in a carefree manner. No one dared to chase after him. When they stared at his vanishing silhouette, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Earlier, the law energy manifested in the air caused them to feel terror. It was like the law energy manifested by that immortal king was of an even higher level, able to suppress their own laws. Yang Yun stared dumbfoundedly at Qin Wenyan. She was already in trouble. This immortal foundation expert who was escorted here by Jialan Mingyue's subordinates. Seems like it was truly because he wanted to come here. If not, he could have easily killed the two immortal kings who escorted them here. We have to hand over 90% of the immortal stones we excavate. Is there any way to escape? Qin Wenyan stared at Yang Yun as he asked. There's no way to escape. After we exit, all our interspatial items will be taken out for inspection. In this boundlessly vast world, all the resources belong to the Realm Lord. Allowing us to obtain 10% is only because we want to do our best to excavate. If the harvests are plentiful, some criminals might even be able to atone for their crimes. This mine is under the jurisdiction of the Jialan monarch, and all the excavated resources have to be handed over to the Li-Fire Palace before being handed over to the Realm Lord. No one would dare to covet the Realm Lord's belongings. If not, no matter how strong you are, only death awaits you. Yang Yun'er spoke. This Realm Lord is truly wealthy. Qin Wenyan laughed. No wonder the supreme experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms were so strict in their control. For the sake of cultivation resources, this was merely an ordinary mine. There were still many other precious mines. Since we can only obtain 10%, we can only excavate more than. Qin Wenyan descended. In an instant, a sword formation appeared around him, expanding outwards in all directions. Qin Wenyan roared. In an instant, a supremely powerful sword formation appeared in the air, slamming down from the heavens, slamming into the mine, unceasingly breaking it apart. Below, the mine exploded, causing sand and gravel to fly about. Rumbling sounds thundered through the air as more and more immortal stones appeared. Qin Wenyan controlled his sword with his immortal sense, controlling it freely. He waved his hands unceasingly, collecting all the immortal stones that appeared. Naturally, there were also times when he wasn't paying attention and the immortal stones were destroyed by his sword. This fellow. Yang Yun was simply speechless. She stared at Qin Wenyan advancing forward, starting to sweep through the mine. This was simply the actions of a madman. In the surroundings, more and more powerful experts appeared, staring at Qin Wenyan. Some of them even had malevolent smiles on their faces, silently musing that there was actually such a foolish person, working so hard for others. Nobody stopped Qin Wenyan. Many people followed behind him. When it was about time, they would directly harvest the immortal stones. The law energy within Qin Wenyan's body seemed to be boundless. This continued for many days, attracting more and more immortal kings. Yang Yun kept following behind Qin Wenyan. Although she knew that Qin Wenyan was very strong, she was still somewhat stunned when she saw this scene. Could it be that he was so confident that he was invincible among immortal kings? Among the people in the surroundings, there were many peak-stage immortal kings. Also, all of their eyes were filled with greed and cruelty. Finally, Qin Wenyan stopped. He glanced at the immortal stones in his interspatial ring as a satisfied look appeared on his face. Even if he only kept 10%, his harvest this time around was already very great. In addition, if there were people who wanted to kill him for his treasures, he wouldn't be polite anymore. Let's go. Qin Wenyan came to the side of Yang Yun and was preparing to leave. However, the people in the surroundings have been staring at him for so many days. How could they allow him to leave? Numerous figures flashed, blocking his path and instantly surrounding him. The spatial light screen flashed. Qin Wenyan stepped out and directly entered the spatial gate, traversing through space and directly appearing in another location. Wait for me here. Qin Wendian spoke to Yang Yun. He actually didn't continue moving forward, but turned and walked towards the direction where the crowd came from. Those who come near shall die. Qin Wendian soared up into the air as a holy radiance cascaded down on him. His entire person was like a divinity. That was light. Qin Wendian radiated an incomparably resplendent light, causing people to be unable to open their eyes. This light was even more dazzling compared to the sun. Although there was his warning, not many people paid attention to it. Instantly, many supreme immortal kings rushed over. After that, they saw the light. The light cascaded down, as though it wanted to purify the world. Sizzling sounds rang out, followed by screams of misery. After that, those who got near Qin Wendian all died one by one after they entered the domain of light. No matter how strong their cultivation bases were, no matter what attribute energy they were proficient in, all of them were killed. Qin Wendian, who stood in the air, was like a divinity at this moment, the god of light. Those who didn't move forward were all so frightened that their bodies trembled. Terror could be seen in their eyes as they stared at this heavenly deity-like expert. The light gradually dissipated. The spatial energy transformed into countless threads that collected the interspatial rings of those experts who died. After that, Qin Wendian leisurely turned and left. No one else dared to pursue him. Since he has such strength, why did he still come to the mine to snatch the mine from us? After the panic subsided, someone spoke in anger. Everyone was speechless. Such an invincible character, he should be able to become a subordinate of a monarch at any time and would definitely be heavily nurtured. If his luck was good, he might even gain the favor of one of the world palace lords. He actually came to the mine to snatch the mine? What does this mean? Everyone was speechless. Although there were many criminals among them, there were also some who had nowhere else to go. But in terms of combat prowess, none of them could be considered to be at the peak. If not, who would come to the mine to take the risk and join a major power? Yang Yun had already lost count of how many times she was shocked by Qin Wendian. She stared dumbfoundedly at Qin Wendian, who was beside her, and asked, "You are so strong, why did you bring me along?" "Because we came in together." Qin Wendian laughed. Yang Yun blinked. She fell silent for a moment before she asked again. In the immortal realms, there are many records regarding the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. This is especially so for constellations from the 6th heavenly layer and above. But even though I've seen many astral souls from the 7th heavenly layer, I've never heard of such a powerful astral soul before. Is that light attribute? It should be. My astral soul originates from the 8th heavenly layer. Qin Wendian laughed. Yang Yun stared dumbly at him once more. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.